Okay, hello everybody. Sorry for the delay. We were getting things set up. We were making ourselves look pretty.
No,
Obviously, there
I
was
finished
not a
the
lot.
PowerPoint
There's not a lot that can
2
be
minutes
done.
ago.
I'm saying things, Jordan.
2
Thank you.
minutes ago,
Excuse
I
you.
finished this PowerPoint. So
Welcome.
I wasn't screwing around.
It's your favorite apostates. I'm McKay.
I'm Jordan.
And
I'm angry.
sorry to who was dancing? Tay C. Sorry for cutting you off there. If you want to look up the song, there's actually lyrics to it. It's a reggaeton song. I think it's called. All of a sudden, I'm drawing a blank. Hold on, let me look. I don't want to put you on starting soon. Anyway, I can't think of what it's called off the top of my head. Somebody's already asking about my teeth. Yes.
That's because I posted it on Instagram.
I was vigorously brushing through my hair. Actually, I did do it good.
I did not even brush
today,
my hair before this. I apologize.
You want to see my teeth? Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, let's get this out of the way. I'll do a
That'll
close-up.
give me
Hold
time
on.
to fix my hair.
You see this right here? Yeah. So, basically, yesterday we postponed because I had to go and do an emergency. Oh, God damn it. That's not what I wanted to do. I'm trying to do two things at the same time, so please excuse my my absent-mindedness. But I had to go and do an emergency dental procedure. Thank God Jordan works her ass off and breaks her back just so we can have good insurance because she works an awful lot for the fucking coverage that we get. Anyway, I should watch my language a little more because we've been getting yellowed a lot for it. Anyway, so I go because should I show a picture to illustrate?
I mean, if you want to. I don't care.
All right, hold on, everybody.
I need a brush.
We're going here. I'm gonna pull this up.
Sorry, y'all.
Anyway, let me move this off to the side. Okay, so Chip Skylark. Okay, so this was me yesterday in the morning. It doesn't look too bad. If you notice here, there's some shit going on. Now, when I looked upward, you can see, yep. There's a fucking problem here. Also, my lip is absolute hamburger. Please disregard my unshaven face. Anyway, Tuesday night, I decided to go to a metalcore show. Now, I have not been to a metalcore show in a long time. I don't really like metalcore anymore. I kind of grew out of it. Anyway, a band that I liked their album from 10 years ago was playing it in its entirety. And I got the fucking shit smacked out of me. And that's what came of that. So yesterday I had to go and they had to do a root canal and a crown because I couldn't close my mouth. So, yeah, I caught a stray from a hardcore dancer and, yeah, rung my bell.
It's true.
But here we are. We're vibing. We're doing the best we can. I had to slather on some Vaseline on my lip because it was, yeah, my lip's been killing me all day. Anyway, of the better ways to wreck your teeth. I know. I was a little bit disappointed that it was so messed up like that and not like just straight knocked into the back of my throat when it happened. So that was fun. The band I was going to see is Attila, which is problematic in its own right. I don't like Attila anymore, but they were playing this album. It was a big part of my teenage dumb, I don't know. And my friends were going to go with me, so anyway.
Shout out to Julie Markham. Welcome to the Celestial Kingdom.
Yes, there was somebody else before
Hannah.
everything. I think it was Frankie B. Frankie B upgraded.
Oh, cool.
To the terrestrial kingdom.
Hannah Hicks, been binging your content for the past 2 weeks to cope with post-breakup feels. You guys rock. Jordan, I'm also a therapist, so I appreciate your insight. Sorry about the breakup. That freaking sucks. I hate that for you, but I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, Epic is binging us. Yes, I was at the Bluebird. Shani, did you really pass by me? I was with my 2 friends.
Sarah, Simon, welcome to the Terrestrial Kingdom.
I was parked up by Blue Pan.
Like literally, or just like driving past direction wise?
Oh, I don't know. Hold on.
Just vibing. You've been here for almost a year, which is amazing.
I passed by you while you were coming home, Element. Oh, that's fucking hilarious. Almost a year. Can't believe it. With vibing in outer darkness. Yeah, you probably did pass by me. I got out of there very quickly after it was over because I was like, what am I going to tell Jordan? Cheyenne just applied to transfer to the U.
Love the U.
Shout out.
Okay, so
I'm getting a drink. Go ahead.
I'm going to timestamp this at some point because, as you know, this is one of my PowerPoints. So we're all going to need to settle in for a hot minute. What is in my shirt?
I'm thinking of maybe uploading it.
Bottle cap.
Uploading it after the fact. Maybe we can edit it down or something like that.
Probably. But
I'm gonna record it just to be safe.
Anywho, I will timestamp if you prefer to watch the live. That's because otherwise people will yell at me. So I will do it. And then Empress Cami, welcome to the Celestial Kingdom.
Oh.
Sonia Mendoza, welcome to the Terrestrial Kingdom. Ace Detective Puff, you've been here for a hot minute. Yay for dental insurance.
Yeah, we got lucky on that one.
And yes, it is PowerPoint era time. So today we are talking about various topics all together. Kind of 3 all combined into one. They all overlap. Lizzie Dillon, welcome to the Terrestrial Kingdom. Tim Ballard, OUR or Operation Underground Railroad, and Mormonism, and we are going to wrap them up together so I can explain them all to you in hopefully a way that makes sense, because this case is complex and ongoing. And yeah, so I'm going to do my very best here. Trigger warning for those of you who have no idea what's going on here. The organization that we're talking about is a anti-trafficking children type organization. I'm trying to be careful of the words that I use for not getting YouTube mad at us purposes. And then religious trauma with Mormonism, obviously, and then there has been like sexual misconduct and things that have been going on with the leader of this organization. So trigger warning for those things. And then there's nothing super specific. There is one video that we will watch that's material from the nonprofit, but I will give you warning well beforehand before you watch that. So,
and it's intense, but it's not graphic or
it's not graphic.
Yeah.
So there's your trigger warning here. Tap out at any time. This video will be available to watch after the fact.
Shout out. Also, all of our peeps who were here last week, you might spy. I was trying to find this picture in the Instagram feed, but I couldn't find it while we were live. But I knew this picture existed, but peep that nice little John McNaughton painting right there. This is the Mormon classic of George Washington kneeling in Valley Forge, kneeling in prayer in Valley Forge, because Mormons largely believe that the United States of America was the foreordained land that could bring forth the fullness of the gospel in the latter days, aka Joseph Smith and his golden plates. Anyway, just
Correct.
A quick little thing.
So before we go any deeper, these PowerPoints take a lot of time and effort and energy and brain power from me to create. This one's probably been upwards of like 10 hours at this point. So if you can become a member of our channel to sustain us, that is wonderful and beautiful. $3 a month goes a long way in supporting us in our project, watching us, engaging with our stuff, liking this video, making sure you're subscribed. We also have a Patreon. All of those things make it possible so that we can continue to do these things. And then you also get exclusive content that comes with that also. And we have little baby Baloney here.
Hi, Baloney. I can give the people what they want.
Oh, you got the camera
I got
set
it
up?
working today.
Oh gosh, you guys
and
are
I
gonna be happy
updated
about
it
this.
and everything. So let me get this going for y'all real quick.
Like the video for Baloney Cam.
Yep, like the video for Baloney Cam. What the hell? What are we doing here?
You gave him airplane ears.
I know. Sorry, Baloney. I can get you what you want, just very slowly, okay? Please.
Lindsay, welcome to the Terrestrial Kingdom. Jill Spagar, thank you. Will you look up?
See from here. Oh no! You guys can't see it. Hold on. It was working just a minute ago.
El Gato. Is this the kitty cam?
Hold on.
Donald,
What
welcome
the
to the
heck
Terrestrial
happened,
Kingdom.
bro?
Thank you.
El Gato virtual cam. Why? I swear to God, it was working. The app is working now, which is the more important aspect. Hold on. Let's restart the app, I guess.
Christina Ward, thank you for the super chat. We appreciate that so much. Frankie B for Baloney, thank you.
Well, I guess I will just die then.
Oh my God, stop.
I'm being dramatic. What the hell? Oh, wait. Cam Link 4K? Nope. Man, it's really giving me nothing. Anyway, guys, sorry.
There's a view of our nasty
Our whole basement that's covered in ball pit balls right now.
kids' toys.
Let's go.
Okay.
Anyway, we're going back to this.
Anyways.
Sorry.
Anna
swear
Jones,
to God it worked.
welcome. Thank you.
A little bit ago.
Thank you to our members who are already here, all of you with your little stars, and our patrons that are here. We appreciate you. Thank you. Okay. Questions before we begin. Jessica Ellen, thank you for the super chat. So let's jump into this. And the way that I created this and designed this, my hope is that I simplified as much as I possibly could, even though it's complex, but I tried to break it down as much as possible so somebody who has like no idea about most of these things would be able to piece things together. So for those of you well versed in this, a lot of this might be things that you already know, but I tried to make it comprehensive so that people coming from the outside in can understand what's going on. So that being said, what the frick is happening and why does it matter? See, I caught myself there.
What the frick?
Okay,
Well,
let's
flip,
go.
All right. We're getting on with it.
I didn't edit any transitions in here, so I don't know what it did, so hopefully it's not bad. So people doing the work, I wanted to include the people that I got like the majority of the information right now, especially with everything that's ongoing. So these are the journalists specifically. Lynn Packer is part of the American Crime Journal. He has been covering Operation Underground Railroad and Tim Ballard for years.
He's been calling the BS.
For years now. And so he has done a plentiful amount of work. You can find all of it. He has he did interviews with Mormon Stories. He has a very thorough website with all of his information. Like, if you need a journalist to really dive into this because you want all the details, Lynn Packer is a really good start. And then Anna Merlin and Tim Marchman are the ones who have propelled this stuff out of the darkness. They're from Vice News, and Anna has written some of the biggest articles out here right now, specifically targeting OUR and Tim Ballard and the things that are going on. And so give them your views and your appreciation. And then Caitlin Tiffany has an article that I'll talk about at the end. She did a really awesome article about kind of the intersection of all of these things with QAnon. And she writes for The Atlantic, so I included her in here as well. And then next slide. Other people to keep in mind, content creators who are doing a lot of this work also. I've got John DeLynn, obviously, of course. He's done years ago with Lynn Packer. He did like multiple hour-long episodes.
I think it was about 2 years ago.
About 2 years ago with Lynn Packer, interviewing just like line by line, breaking down all the bullshit about OUR. So he's a great place to go. Kara Burrell, Nuanceau on Instagram, has compiled a lot of information and like made it really easy to access, which I'm loving. She's doing a really great job. So go follow her. She also has a nonprofit now, so you can donate to that. And then Carly is on Instagram. She's Uncertainly Carly, and she's been doing a ton of information compiling as well. Like, as I've been trying to keep track of all this between her and Kara, I'm like picking up on the things. I'm like, oh God, I need to go back to that. And oh Jesus, I need to go to this too. And then the MLM Police was recommended to me actually by Carly, and they have a very large plethora of information specifically on OUR and Tim Ballard. Right. So those are all really good resources to go to. Check them out.
Oh,
are you good?
No, we're good. Well,
okay.
We're good.
Okay, so this is a little funny for you. I went to, if you were at our live a little bit ago, we looked at a video that Jordan Page, who's a really popular Mormon influencer, did where she talked about Tim Ballard and this whole scandal that's going on right now. She made a whole video about it, and we watched it, and I wanted to bring it in again because I think it was important that we talked about it, right? So I was going to. So I pulled up my Instagram account, like our joint Instagram account that we always use. If you're not following us on there, please do. And I searched Jordan Page, and she wouldn't come up. I'm like, okay, am I just stupid? Am I thinking that she changed like her handle? Like what is going on here? So I'm like, oh no. Tell me this is not what I think it is. And so I swapped to my personal account and searched her, and she came up. No issue. So I hopped back over to my other account and looked up their company page, which is the screenshot that you'll see on the right. And you'll see where it says Jordan Page right there. It's supposed to be in blue. Okay, it's supposed to be clickable. It's supposed to be highlighted. So that bitch blocked me.
The dirty block.
She blocked me, which, I mean, it's fine. Am I surprised? No, but I just thought it was freaking funny. I don't know when this happened. I feel like I looked her up not that long ago. We did do a video on her, which I'm sure she didn't love. So
yeah,
maybe it was longer than I thought, but I thought that was freaking funny. So
it is hilarious.
Love that for me.
Objectively.
But, you know, I don't care. If
whatever.
Block me. It doesn't bother me. Okay, so, I saw Carly was in here. Hi, Carly. So, let's talk about why we're here. So, the scandal is why we're all here. There's been some news that has broken about the two kind of areas we're going to focus on. Operation Underground Railroad, which is the nonprofit, and then we've got Tim Ballard, who created the nonprofit. And the reason that this is kind of propelled into the limelight at this point is because these journalists have pulled out new information, discovered new things, and it's gone hella mainstream media right now. So we will discuss what these two articles are, but I wanted to let you know that's why this is happening right now, because it's in the news. It's in the media. Like, that's why we're talking about it right now. So we're going to start with Timmy.
Timmer.
So, and his wife calls him that.
She calls him Timmy?
She calls him Timmy.
That's hilarious.
I don't know if she does it all the time, but she did it in the interview that I watched. So let's start with Tim. So Tim's an interesting character, everyone. Tim, discount John Cena. That is like the best thing I've ever heard. I call him wannabe G.I. Joe. I think I've seen that other places too, but Tim is a former, I put this in quotations, U.S. Special Agent for the Department of Homeland Security for 12 years. This will be one of the most critical credentials that Tim leads with for all his work going forward, that he was a special agent for Homeland Security and for 12 years. However, this information, like, DHS can verify whether or not somebody has worked for them if the person that worked for them gave them written permission to do so. Okay? So all you have to do is hook up with the people at DHS and go, hey, yeah, I don't care if you tell him. And they're like, cool, okay, yes, he worked for us. Well, Tim, like, spouts off about being a special agent all of the time, and then anytime journalists go to verify that, I think it was Vice particularly, they came back and said, well, we could tell you yes or no, but he will not give us permission to do so, or didn't provide permission to do so. So do with that what you will.
Anecdotally, from the comments in Reddit, which means nothing, there was somebody who said their family member was a coworker of his, and special agent apparently means desk jockey, per that comment. Now, I don't know anything beyond that, and it's total speculation, but that's what has been said. So
indeed. So he founded Operation Underground Railroad, that we're going to talk about in a minute, that I'm going to tell you what it is. He founded OUR, but now he is the ex-CEO of OUR because he resigned in 2023. Okay?
As in a month and a half ago.
The summer.
Yeah.
So he's also been associated with the Nazarene Fund, which I've looked at so many by now. I'm pretty sure the Nazarene Fund is also Glenn Beck's organization.
Shall we do a check?
Check me on that, because I think that's kind of where he started.
The Nazarene Fund.
Just look up Glenn Beck and see.
I can't fucking read that.
Because we're going to come back to Glenn Beck anyway, but the Nazarene Fund, similar mission is what OUR does.
Glenn Beck, yep.
Yes. Okay, so Glenn Beck does the Nazarene Fund.
He's the CEO. Tim Ballard as CEO of Glenn Beck-backed Nazarene Fund.
That was where he was before he started OUR.
Yeah.
So he was working with Glenn.
2019, July 19th of 2023.
Yes.
Tim Ballard was the CEO.
Don't worry. We will come back around to Glenn Beck because he is involved in OUR. So don't think I'm forgetting about that right now. We're just focusing on Timmy right now. But yes, Glenn and Timmy are good friends. Then he now is associated with the Spear Fund, which is where he's spending his time now. And we'll get into that a little later also. So he is still in the anti-trafficking nonprofit space. Other important things to know about Tim. Trump loves Timmy. Trump just has it for Tim.
Yeah, a couple years ago, and one of the things that I was like, this is weird. I remember we were talking about it, and then we had seen that there was this whole photo op that they had in the White House with some trafficking victims, and they had pulled special strings to get these people visas just to come and parade them at the White House for Donald Trump. It was
lots of gross behavior going on here. So, notably, while Trump was in office, Timmy was on the White House Anti-Trafficking Advisory Board and the White House Public-Private Partnership Advisory Council to End Human Trafficking. From my understanding, at least one of those is now defunct because it was only for the time that Trump was in office. Didn't dive too much into that. We'll come back around to that anyway. Notably, grossly, as is...
Oh, let me move the text here.
Yeah. As we'll return to a few different times, Timmy refers to himself as an abolitionist, and he also refers to the people in his organization that work for him and the donors that support him as abolitionists as well. We will talk more about kind of...
Red flag!
Yes, how that is just straight up racially insensitive for a few different reasons, but we're going to come back to that as well. So, bottom thing on here, the movie The Sound of Freedom was inspired by his quote-unquote, what I will say, courageous acts. So if you have heard of The Sound of Freedom, if you are aware of that movie at all, the hero of that movie is based on, it's Tim Ballard. So,
yeah.
We'll come back to Sound of Freedom as well. So, you all know how we do this. We do the Mormon angle, right? So we got to talk about the Mormonism piece in this, of course. So, Tim Ballard is what I like to call, and what McKay, I think, and I have said on this channel before, is the Mormon elite.
Mormon elite is...
The Mormon elite. So Tim is a tried and true Mormon, straight up and down. He grew up Mormon, served a mission in Chile, graduated from BYU. Notably, he has a bachelor's degree and a master's degree. He also speaks fluent Spanish. I don't know if it's Portuguese also, but definitely Spanish, which aids him kind of in the work that he does.
Fluent.
That we'll get to later. So he's been married to his wife. What?
I'll say he does speak Spanish, but his accent is dog shit. Anyway.
Fair. He's been married to his wife, Catherine, for 20 years. They met while they were at BYU. So, again, we're following the Mormon trail here. Everything is perfectly placed for Mormons. They have 9 children.
Woo!
2 of them were adopted, and I mentioned that because the 2 that were adopted, he apparently adopted while on a sting operation in Haiti for the nonprofit.
That sounds...
I don't know.
That sounds like a conflict of interest.
I don't know. We'll come back to that later. But
Anyway.
I thought it was important. But still, I mean, that's still, what, 9, 8, 7 kids that they had?
Yeah.
That's a lot of kids. That's a lot of kids. Candace Phlox, welcome to the Terrestrial Kingdom. Thank you. And then his oldest son went on a mission recently. I always, like, when we're doing things like this and looking at people, I'm always checking to make sure that we aren't just, like, past Mormons. I'm looking to make sure that we have evidence that's supporting what's going on right now. And his son just very recently went on a mission or came back from a mission or is on a mission in that space very recently. And then he is allegedly not besties with Elder Ballard, one of
allegedly. Yes, Elder M. Russell Ballard of the 12 Apostles of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Mormon Church. Specifically.
We'll get to him later also. And then I included this quote that came from a Vice article because I think it's funny. Tim has also written a bunch of books. He is the author of several books, including one arguing that Abraham Lincoln was able to win the Civil War because he read the Book of Mormon.
Objectively, one of the most insane things I've ever heard in my life.
Do with that what you will. Do with that what you will. I don't know how that has any bearing on anything else.
Abe really was out here like, wow, fucking God just really said, Nephi, cut off Laban's head. And that's how Abraham Lincoln won the Civil War, I guess.
Abe Lincoln.
Yeah.
Shout out.
I would argue that maybe Ulysses S. Grant probably did most of the footwork in that situation, but whatever.
Probably.
Whatever.
So the bottom on there is me being petty, but rich bitch also qualifies you for that Mormon elite position. You can't be Mormon elite if you ain't rich. So they are very wealthy, and I know that for a fact, and we'll come back to that in a moment. So let's talk about this. I wanted to include these angles not just because there's funny people in here, but because I want you guys to understand the influence that this man has on people from all different areas of life. Like just regular media and journalism, then we have athletes, we have celebrities, like all across the board. Tim Ballard has like weaseled his way into all these places that you would not think that he would be involved in. And yes, that is mother freaking Chuck Norris in that picture on the right.
Ain't that sad to see, man?
Yes. So on the left, we have Glenn Beck with that hideous picture of Washington and his horse in the back. And again, Glenn Beck on the right. But that is Chuck Norris. So that's why I wanted to include some of these, because you guys will just see how much Tim has infiltrated this space.
Did you have another
I have
slide
plenty.
So
we've got Lil Trumpy here, right? So he's been involved with Trump for a long time. There's multiple pictures of the two of them together. I pulled this one because it's the most recent. This was when the Sound of Freedom movie came out. Notably, Tim also, they did a special viewing of the Sound of Freedom movie for Donald Trump. And so Donald Trump was able to sit and watch it with, like, sitting with Tim there at the same time. Like, it was like a whole It was like a whole thing.
I bet he was bricked up the whole time that he got to sit next to Mr. Donald there.
Why does he have ramen noodle hair? Oh my god. And then we have Lindsey Graham on the right. If you don't know who Lindsey Graham is, he is a politician in the US. He is very, very right-wing Republican. So
He's the official White House dog of Donald Trump.
Indeed.
So
Indeed. Okay, next one. And then more conservatives. We've got the lovely
Candace
Owens.
You love to see it.
And then we've got Willie and Corey Robertson, which if they look familiar but you don't know who they are from the famous Duck Dynasty show on...
I think it was A&E.
Was it A&E? I wanted to say TLC.
Discovery, maybe.
Maybe not. I can't remember. Kaylee Lien, thank you. Sound of Freedom when enrichment trumps morality. Yeah, Tim doesn't know a whole lot about morality
Right.
at this point. So, again, more conservatives, more famous people. And then we have popular people. I put Tony Robbins on this slide. I don't think most of you know who Tony Robbins is. I vaguely knew who he was. He's like a motivational speaker guru type guy.
He gets an honorable mention in an episode of The Office.
There you go.
Because Michael mentions that he didn't do the seminar. He just went to the
Also, I want you guys to look at the photo.
promo.
This photo was taken in Tony Robbins'
Bingo!
house. What's that photo right there? Yeah, that's the one that we looked at
There
on
it
our
is.
other live the other day.
Look, it's a spitting image. Him right there, too.
There he is.
Boom, boom.
There he is. And then all of you Bachelor people will know, of course, who is that on the left side of the screen? That's Ben freaking Higgins, of all people. That is the Bachelor.
Is that the Bachelor that Paula Morgan shouted out in that one video?
No.
That's not him?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember
He was
who
just
it
a
was.
contestant on The Bachelorette.
Yeah, I don't think
Okay.
I feel like I would have remembered that.
Yep, the Garmyverse expands through Tim
Garmyverse
Ballard.
expands. So he gets a lot of people to endorse his work and what he does. And so, like, media outreach. I mean, for me, it's like venturing into like Scientology territory. It's like, how many famous people in different aspects can we grab onto to advertise what we do?
Absolutely.
And then I didn't label this one on the left because I wanted to see if you guys could tell me who it is. Because if you've watched our Provo's Most Eligible, the Utah Bachelor videos, you will probably know who this is. So I'll give you a second to think about it. And then on the right, we have none other than Elder
I'm
M.
watching
Russell
chat
Ballard.
to see who knows.
We've got Russell Ballard himself, who is supposedly, allegedly not besties with Tim, even though Tim says that they are, in my opinion.
Yes. Well, Rusty Ballard hasn't said anything about it, but the church has said a whole lot about how they're not besties.
Indeed. I'm seeing...
I haven't seen anybody... Oh, there's Stacy with the correct answer. That is, in fact, the rapper previously known as James the Mormon.
You guys were on the nose, though, with Josue. I can see some resemblance.
He does
there
kind
for
of look
people
like Josue.
that watched it. James the Mormon wasn't on that show for very long, but
Yeah, he was like one of the first guys to go home, I think.
James the Mormon is a famous Mormon rapper / musician.
Yeah, he really fell off at about 2018. though.
Yeah. So, James the Mormon, there you go. It just is never ending with these people. Okay, let's talk about OUR so that now you can understand what it is that we're talking about here. I abbreviate to OUR because the name is so dang long. The actual name of the nonprofit is Operation Underground Railroad, which, again, when we're talking about racial and cultural sensitivity, none of that is being had here. So OUR...
For those who are not aware of American history, the Underground Railroad was famously it's not a real railroad. It's a means that people, specifically abolitionists back in the day or former enslaved people, used to get people out of slavery under like night. So they would get people out and they would have like way stations of white landowners who had agreed to hide the people while they were trying to get them up to the north or places where they could be liberated.
Indeed.
That's very condensed version.
So to call yourself something like this and to label people within your organization as abolitionists, no, not.
Yeah.
No, we're not doing that. So anti-sex trafficking is the mission here, particularly with children. So OUR was founded in 2013 by Tim Ballard. It was founded in Utah. Tim currently still lives in Utah. So the mission, like the reason it came about is based on like personal stories and experiences related to Tim, but part of it was he felt like he wasn't able to do as much as he wanted to in his homeland or his Department of Homeland Security role. And so it was kind of a, I'm going to take matters into my own hands type of situation. And then there were other reasons and even stories that he told that are now coming out that are actually not even factual and are like greatly exaggerated. But that being said, he didn't have the money at the time to start OUR on his own. And so, and I don't know, maybe he could have on a smaller scale, but he wanted
not
that
in the
big
way
money.
that he wanted to.
He wanted that big money. And so who do you go to? Fox News and Glenn Beck, of course. Of course.
Yes. You find people who are sympathetic to your quote-unquote cause, otherwise known as a grift, and they will bankroll you, baby.
Indeed. And then, let's see. I don't know if I'm saying this right, but Idella, thank you. Welcome to the terrestrial kingdom. I don't think I missed anybody else. Okay, so as of December 2022, this came from one of the Vice articles, OUR had $60 million in assets.
Woo.
I looked at their public, their tax returns and things are public because they have to be more transparent since they're a 501c3. So I was able to look at some things, and that is indeed accurate. So the purpose of OUR, what the hell does OUR do? I feel like I'm Christine, like, what does the nanny do? So OUR,
do that again.
What does the nanny OUR do?
There we go.
Love Christine.
Perfect.
Love Christine. So they do a variety of different things. They are also vague in nature on purpose. We're starting to see. So there's a few larger ones and then a few more kind of infrequent. One of the ones that I don't hear about very often is the electronic storage device dog sponsorships, which I had no idea this was a thing. Apparently you can train dogs to be able to sniff out electronic storage devices. So
that sounds fake.
It's not.
Sorry.
I looked it up.
That's weird.
And it's not just being used in OUR, but I looked it up. So apparently they can train dogs to like sniff whatever because I'm thinking like USBs, right?
Yeah.
But apparently some like law enforcement agencies and things use them. And so what they've done is OUR takes the money that they get and they sponsor different law enforcement agencies to help them be able to get dogs and train dogs who are able to do this. Because if they're able to sniff out like the electronic storage devices, depending on who they're looking for, it might potentially lead them to people who are in possession of inappropriate material. So
CSAM,
which I'm not going to expand on that.
Yeah, you can Google. It's an acronym, CSAM.
We all know what we're talking about here, I feel like, at this point. The biggest thing, in my opinion, that OUR does is assist law enforcement agencies. So OUR pairs up with police agencies across the United States and also has involvement in other countries and basically helps them, gives them the tools, the expertise, the funding, the resources to be able to tackle things like trafficking specifically.
Now, I'm no advocate for this kind of a thing, or I'm no specialist, but why would you not just cut out the middleman?
What do you mean?
Why do they have to assist the law enforcement agency? Why is money not just going directly to that agency so they can do it?
I'll tell you why.
Let's hear it, Jordan. I have a feeling I know the answer. I just wanted to pose a rhetorical question.
Yes, which is fair. And part of the reason why they're in trouble right now, and part of the reason why they've been investigated that we'll get to later, is because they don't make distinctions around where the numbers come from. So if I assist if OUR assists a law enforcement agency, and the law enforcement agency goes out and like does some kind of operation, is able to like get people into custody, whatever the situation is, OUR doesn't make distinctions around those numbers. They just nag those numbers. So instead of, this police agency was able to arrest 30 people that were possessing inappropriate material, it's no, OUR was able to make these arrests and arrest these traffickers, which if we leave things vague enough, then it, like, because they do these jumps and these like sting operations that we're going to get to in a moment, people have kind of this idea that like, they're just like nabbing these traffickers like left and right.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Are you meaning to tell me that they are manipulating the facts in order to paint a narrative?
Yes.
That
I
is
very much
utterly groundbreaking. I could never imagine that ever happening.
That is exactly what I'm talking about and exactly what they were partially investigated for. So other things on this list, OUR is like first and foremost known for, like, the general term would be like sting operations, where they go to other countries and they pose as undercover operatives acting as traffickers in order to be able to arrest people who are involved with trafficking in other areas of the globe. So they call them jumps. Sting operations, I feel like, is the more general term. But notably, I included in here, he invited Utah Attorney General Sean Reyes on one of those jumps.
Of course he did.
I have a funny picture of Sean from that we'll get back to also. But sting operations are a big one, so that's where their international operations comes in. They have digital forensic technology, which is described on their websites as a data mining platform, which they deploy against networks that child traffickers and other things that we're not going to describe to use to communicate with each other. So I have no idea what that means.
You mean Discord? I mean...
You mean 4chan?
I don't think it's
know.
that deep most of the time.
I don't know what it is. It's on their website that they've got this digital forensic technology that helps them find these people who are doing it. And then they have what they call aftercare on their website, which largely we see is like, from the articles that I've read, seems to be the biggest gap with these kinds of things. Because if we're talking about trafficking, getting people out of the dangerous situation is only half the battle. The other half of the battle is what comes afterwards.
Yeah.
Like getting somebody mental health treatment, getting somebody physical treatment to make sure that their physical health is okay, like vocational training, skills, school to make sure that they're able to function safely and appropriately in society, given if they were in trafficking for a long time. Like, so there's a lot of work that goes into this rather than like, yep, we just take the kids out and then we dump them somewhere and hope for the best. So they have aftercare listed on their websites, and they say that they send money to these certain areas to help the organizations that are then taking in the children to help them adjust. But it's one of the areas that is more vague. And so I took these screenshots up at the top from their like report for this year, like their annual report for half the year or whatever. So first 6 months of 2023, they're saying that their operations team has rescued over 300 survivors and apprehended more than 150 predators. So again, based off the information that I just gave you, that could be all police departments that they had no physical present hand in, like they would like you to think that they would.
Or it could just be a number that they pulled from the research center at the base of their spine.
Maybe.
Who knows?
Who knows? And then in 2023, we empowered over 325 new individual survivors by providing personalized support in addition to the survivors we continually support year after year. Tell me what the fuck that means.
Baloney just farted. Sorry. That was wretched. Sorry.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
I'm sorry. What did you say? Because I was taken aback by that.
He is laying on you.
Oh my God. He's really relaxed. Including that sphincter. Damn, baloney.
I'm just moving on. And then we have proudly supported over 100 law enforcement agencies in all 50 states this year. So,
okay.
There's the reference to that. And then bottom left, notably, I wrote 2020 Vice article labeled them as a QAnon adjacent charity. That is because Tim is very much right-wing leaning.
Well, and I've seen video of him talking about adrenochrome in a serious sense.
Him or Jim?
No, I've seen Tim talking about it. I should have told you, and I would have found the clip, but it was when he was doing stuff for promos for Sound of Freedom, if I'm not mistaken.
Because Jim says that shit too.
Yes, Jim is also fucking...
Jim Caviezel is who played Tim in the movie.
Yeah.
And we get to him also, but he's also
off
anti-Semitic conspiracy theory peddling freak.
Yeah.
And... You know, I think the biggest thing that connected Tim to QAnon for me was during the pandemic, and there was that whole Wayfair scandal, if everyone remembers that, where everybody kind of went crazy over the fact that allegedly there were these very high-priced Wayfair items that apparently were so expensive because they had children in them, and it was debunked by basically every news outlet. And then
the entirety of the internet.
And then I found out that a bunch of the largest, most reputable anti-trafficking organizations signed a statement that was distributed to the media that said, this is not a thing. We are not contributing to perpetuating this narrative that this is happening. And you know the one organization that refused to sign that statement?
Ooh.
Oh, you are. And at that time, Tim also posted a video of himself where he vaguely stated that, you know, he didn't say Wayfair specifically, but he was like, the things that are going on right now, I've seen it. It happens. And so then everybody fucking ran with it.
It's so crazy because the first thing I remember, some family members, they're like, oh, you got those from Wayfair? Have you not heard about Wayfair? And we were still Mormon at the time. I was like, this is the most unhinged pile of shit that I've ever heard. There's no way that is happening.
No. And it was refuted multiple times by multiple things. And does trafficking happen on the internet? Absolutely it does. But is that what's happening?
Yeah, that was the most ludicrous claim that I'd ever heard to date.
So that he connected himself to QAnon in that way as well. So, okay, next slide.
Very cute. Very cute.
So these are some of the things that I took off the website just to kind of show you the language. Again, we have the return of the abolitionist. Part of their donation thing on here is that if you become an abolitionist, which from what I recall is being a monthly donor, then you get exclusive updates about OUR operations and aftercare delivered straight to your inbox, which for me...
Wow.
For me, as a social worker, we got to have a conversation, too, at some point about the ethics of sharing information, particularly about survivors and children. And then discounts and sneak peeks on campaign events in March, because they have March, because of course they do. And then milestone rewards, so you receive milestone gifts and thank you videos from their team. So
let's talk about this. Honestly, this is a Patreon for fighting child trafficking, and you're getting exclusive stories and discounts on merch and milestone rewards for donating a certain amount. Please,
freaking airline.
Be real. Are we really how has anybody? I can't believe that anybody has. Yeah. Airline frequent flyer miles for trafficked children.
Oh my God.
I can't believe that this was one of the biggest, most well-known organizations and continues to be. This is stuff that we do, and we just are out here on the internet talking about how I got my teeth kicked in. And also, let's also talk about abolitionist paying your money to some company full of white people who claim that they're going to other countries and they're catching these traffickers or whatever the hell they're doing is not what makes you an abolitionist. Anyway, that should go without saying.
Yeah, indeed. So there you go. There's that part.
Just really silly.
Next slide.
Stuff. Silly is the best word I can come up with.
Okay. MLM involvement, because of course we can't
Oh
be talking
my
about a
God,
Utah
of course.
thing without MLMs being involved in some way, right? So I didn't have enough time to deep dive to see if he was involved with other MLMs, but I knew about the doTERRA one from what I could remember after some things in 2020. So this super grainy, crappy photo on the right, I wanted to include it because it's like the straight up and down proof, but this was Tim speaking at a doTERRA conference in 2018.
Oh.
So the quote that is like super hard to read is 6 million children worldwide are in some form of slavery. Together, you and doTERRA have helped us tremendously to find these kids. And that's a direct quote from Tim. So at that time, like doTERRA has like their like helping, not, I don't know exactly how it works, but like it feels like their nonprofit piece of like their Helping Hands Foundation. And so their nonprofit-y, like, feeling good about donating money to something was paired with
their
OUR. Their philanthropy stuff.
Yeah.
I was going to make a joke about essential oils, but oh my God, those are actually essential oils.
Yep.
Yes,
this
Melissa,
is the
they
product
are.
right here. Boom.
That is it's a Hope blend.
Let's see what's in there. Bergamot.
I can't read it.
Ylang. I probably butchered that. And frankincense. Of course, frankincense, because, you know, frankincense and myrrh, Jesus.
So it's like,
shout out.
With every purchase of this Hope blend, then we're donating money or whatever it is. And then the year prior, he spoke, because this is the post from September 2017, ongoing partnership with Tim Ballard, spoke at their convention, excited about the project, blah, blah, blah. So there you go. Because, of course, they have to be connected. But then in 2020, there was and the MLM police, I think, has a screenshot of it on their Instagram that I didn't include. But on like Anti-National Trafficking Day, the CEO of doTERRA announced formally that they had split with OUR.
Oh.
So they are not.
Imagine getting kicked to the curb by an MLM. Like you're so scummy that you're below MLMs. That's just crazy to me.
Indeed. Okay.
Call back Guad.
Let's talk about these sting operations. Okay, let's talk about these, what they call jumps. So Tim was kind of notorious for inviting just random people on these jumps to go be undercover and get trafficked kids.
Red flag.
Immediate. One of those people who was invited on the jump was a neighbor of Tim Ballard who DM'd me.
Oh.
Who said that...
Red flag.
Who said that there was no, like, they had not suggested they wanted to go. They were not in the law enforcement realm or social work realm or anything that would have led Tim to be like, hey, maybe you would be useful here. No. He just is, like, picking people and going, hey, you want to go? It's kind of cool. Like, are you serious?
Like, apparently, in all of his special agent duties at the Department of Homeland Security, nobody talked to him about operations security.
No.
Because just involving random-ass people, there's no way that could be a successful way of operating.
Indeed. And that's the other point that I put on here was from this person who gave their account of their trip with Jim, no extensive or proper training or preparation for the people involved. Like, she was giving, like, the very fundamental basics, like, this is where we're going, here's your ticket, this is how they're going to do it, you just have to stay out here, if I need you to do something, come inside. Like, that was basically the gist of the training that he offered for the people who were involved. And so a big part of OUR that always rubbed me the wrong way, because McKay and I have never liked OUR and never donated any of our money because they've always rubbed us the wrong way. We always felt like there was something off. And we talked about doing a video about them almost 2 years ago now. But we were afraid that they would threaten legal action. So we didn't. And we probably should have at this point. But
yeah,
one of the biggest things was if you donate, like in the very beginning, if you were donating enough money, he would take the donors on the trips so that he could be like, look, you're giving me all this money.
Here's what we're doing. Yeah, here's your money in action.
Here's your money at work, like right here, right now.
Well, of course, people probably wanted to see that, so I'm sure he advertised that. Right?
I'm sure.
If you're donating enough, I'll take you on a jump with me, and you can see just what goes down.
Indeed. So one of the people who went on the jumps and documented it was Meg Conley. And so this is a screenshot of her article. She is a writer, and her article was posted on Slate at the time. It's still there, and I'll link it in the video description for anybody who wants to read the whole thing. But this is to illustrate the point that it did not matter who he was asking. He was just asking. So she said, when Ballard called, I didn't ask any questions. I didn't wonder why he thought it was appropriate for me, the writer of a mommy blog, to chronicle anti-trafficking work. At the time, I was a 28-year-old stay-at-home mom in Utah. I was lonely and grieving. My dad and best friend had died not long before. As I changed diapers, managed tantrums, and sat in the playground, I felt unmoored from my past and unsure about my future. I suppose in my grief and my search for meaning, I wanted him to be called by God, because maybe that meant finally that I was too. I accepted his offer quickly. Oof. So, next slide tells us what happened. So, this is the much shorter account. She wrote an entire article that I highly recommend because it was very insightful. We stayed in a big beige house with a bewildered local housekeeper. Once everyone arrived, we sat together to go over the plans for the next day. I took notes. The traffickers thought we were Americans looking to have a sex party with underage girls. I was told Ballard's team coordinated with local authorities who were too overwhelmed or ill-equipped to do this work on their own. Members of the OUR Jump team found people willing to traffic kids and set up a date to a party with however many kids they could provide. The more, the better. The authorities were told where and when the party was happening. When they arrived, the girls would be sent outside where I would be with them, while Ballard and the traffickers would stay inside. The police planned to wait outside until the OUR team had undercover footage of a trafficker accepting upfront cash for inappropriateness with the kids. After the cash changed hands, Ballard would give a signal, and the authorities would rush the house to make the arrests, and they would be armed. So that was the structure that was given to her, the plan, once she got there. Again, this was not given to her beforehand. Like, she was already in the other country. I think this was the Dominican Republic. So she had already gotten on the plane, flown by herself to another country before this information was really shared with her.
Which is like...
Angela F., welcome to the Threshold.
When you're inviting a random person, like, obviously, if this was just all internal operations... there would be no issue. But when you're involving a random who's, I mean, in this case, just a blogger, a writer, doesn't do this shit, and you're going to throw that random ass person into the mix, just a total monkey wrench, like, that does not scream professionalism to me.
No, and you have to be like a very special kind of trained person in order for you to be even remotely qualified to be in this space, because like, even as a social worker or a therapist, like, if you were to just throw me into a space like this tomorrow, just because I'm a therapist doesn't mean I'm anywhere near qualified to be in there. Like, without proper like vetting, and somebody in the chat was like, are they even running background checks? Probably not.
Doubt it.
Like, there's so much of this that is just so inappropriate and
Tim's
so
just going
unethical.
off vibes, bro. don't chap his ass too much. He's just going off vibes.
Indeed. So, next one. I think that's our video, isn't it? Oh, no. Okay. So, this is... the author is actually the one in this image, and you'll see this in video format in a minute. The kids arrived, like, the day of the operation. The kids arrived in a bus with their traffickers the following day. There were 26 of them. They were young, middle school to high school age. I'd been asked to blow up balloons so the house had a party atmosphere. Many of the kids looked like they'd gotten ready for a middle school dance. I met them outside by the pool and handed out sodas. Some kids started singing, others started swimming. The bottom left picture is just really eerie to me. That was a photo that Meg took of the balloons that she had blown up on the floor of the house that they were in. And then Ballard, Tim, sat inside with the traffickers, supposedly negotiating the price for the services each girl would provide. An operative opened the back door and called to me, "Meg, Tim wants you inside." Which, again, she at no point agreed to that. It does not seem. I went in. One of the traffickers talked to me, and I laughed at his jokes. Some of the other traffickers were women. A few didn't look much older than the kids I'd been playing with in the backyard. I watched Ballard count money on the coffee table. Then he gave the signal. The raid started. I ran to the back door where I was confronted by a local police officer brandishing a gun. I was told to get on the floor. The camera was rolling for the hoped-for TV show. So, something to keep in mind that at this time, I don't know if they were focused on the TV show or if they were trying to get material for the inevitable movie or the documentary that was going to come out. But they had cameras with them at the time. So all of this that she's describing was filmed. And then this specific instance, it didn't get pulled for a TV show. But what they filmed, they used for a promotional material for the nonprofit. And so this raid that she actually participated in was videotaped and posted by OUR themselves. And so I have included that video in this PowerPoint. Okay. So if you are sensitive to things involving children, this might not be for you. There's nothing inherently graphic happening in it, obviously, or it wouldn't be able to be posted on YouTube. And the underage children in the video, their faces are blurred. The faces of the traffickers, the ones that were supposedly women who do look not much older than children, their faces are not blurred. So you will be able to see the faces of the alleged traffickers in this documentary. But the children, based on what they've said, their faces for the most part are blurred. But this video basically has a high-speed version of the raid. So you will see law enforcement officers with weapons. No weapons ever get discharged. People are put on the floor. People are put in handcuffs. Money is exchanged. All conversations are in Spanish. So McKay will probably be able to help kind of articulate after the fact.
I mean, it's
but
probably not so important.
So I will give you like 30 seconds to think about right now if this is something that you want to see or not. Again,
and we'll just watch it straight through, so we won't stop and discuss or anything. So after that point, you've got 3 minutes until.
Yeah. So don't feel obligated. We will talk about it afterwards, but if this is something that you're sensitive to, you don't have to watch.
I'll give you a minute or just a second here, longer. That way you know. We probably hit our 30 seconds there. All right, we're going to send it.
Vamos. Hey, dale.
That's Tim closest to us.
Hay 10 más. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So here are the police. Watch this right here. Cheeky bastard.
Pónsela ahí todo al lado de la cabecita ahí.
¿Cuánto tú tienes? Oh, ¿y todo ese dinero?
¿Cómo es?
Todo ese dinero.
¿De qué ese dinero sos?
All right.
So, I mean, it's obvious what was going on in that video, but
Yeah, it
anything
was
that
just
you
with
wanted
Jordan.
to add, since Spanish was going on and most of us. in the chat
I
probably don't
really
speak
was.
it.
There was too much going on for me to really focus on what was being said. They were just like asking, "Oh, what's this money from?" And it was a lot of unintelligible audio for me. But
Okay. So, the title of this is your donations in action. So this is legitimately a promotional material that they show people, like, look, this is what you're
this
doing.
is what your money is doing.
Like,
and-
for every month that you give us money, it's allowing us to go and do these things, and it's giving money for plane rides and
yeah,
hotel stays, and which are a whole other issue. But this is what largely a lot of these operations look like, and there are plenty other than these ones that they filmed. But this one is the one that even I remember seeing back when OUR is very popular in Utah for obvious reasons. And so I remember even seeing this at some point. I don't remember where, but I remember watching it. And so these are the things that they would use to try to pull donors. And it's one thing to, like, be a nonprofit and to have, like, a really good way of, like, enticing people to donate to a good cause. This, to me, doesn't feel that way.
yeah. Well, and the fact that they're in the beginning, they were like, "Oh, all of our undercover operators or whatever, or agents their faces are blurred." But one of those people was a random, not an agent. They didn't have any sort of training. They didn't even know what was going on until the day of. So
This is
I don't know.
This is why there are so many problems with this. And ethically speaking, like, you know, if these traffickers were legitimately traffickers and they were involved and they were arrested, but, you know, America is, like, Tim especially is obsessed with, like, the United States and freedom and all this shit and the whole idea of innocent until proven guilty. So what if those people, like, one of those people that he didn't blur the face of was not actually convicted or was not actually
there's no
guilty?
follow-up to any of this. I don't know what
And
the hell happened to these people.
now their faces on it and they're associated with it. So, I mean, and obviously, should they have been in that situation if it was authentic? Maybe not. But you get what I'm saying. There's a lot of ethics here that are at play that...
Yeah.
Plus, somebody made a good point, and I was confused about this as well, as if somebody wouldn't think that having a camera present would be like a tip-off, you know? Like, it would have been like, why are you, like, walking a camera around and, like, recording our interactions? And
Well, and there are hidden cameras and everything like that, but, like, having a hidden camera around would be such a risk, especially with people who are allegedly child traffickers in other countries. Who knows what lengths they're willing to go to protect that living that they built for themselves and everything like that. So the fact that they had cameras there to capture all of this, it just screams like either you're pulling risks that you are crazy, or it was just a setup to bolster their participation in these kinds of things.
indeed.
So it just seems weird. I'm not going to say
And the wink?
outright the wink. Oh my God. It was
Like, you should not be taking that
Crazy.
much pleasure in this.
yeah.
Savannah with the super chat. Thank you for all you do. Thank you. So on to the next slide here. So, here's where we start to get into they're rescuing kids. Well, they kind of actually don't. So, this is from a Vice article from one of the two authors, well, Anna specifically, where part of the investigation that was had into OUR, which we'll circle back around to, but there was a formal investigation by Utah into...
Specifically the Davis County Attorney General.
Correct. And they looked into...
Where we used to live.
Yeah, to some potentially shady, weird complaints that were coming out about OUR. So, in that article, Anna wrote that when talking to one of the people, everyone internally knows that they don't rescue anyone anymore. Read an investigator's notes from an interview with a former development director in which he paraphrases her words, but the public thinks that OUR is actively rescuing children, and that's just not true.
Oh.
Among those documents, as part of the investigation, are a 2020 letter from OUR's Director of Domestic Operations to higher-ups in which he criticized the effectiveness of the organization's work and wrote, "If the mission is to raise money, I think we're doing a great job. But that isn't what I think our mission is." Which is just...
Really cute.
Love that.
Really cute.
According to a transcript of a subsequent staff call discussing the email, Ballard's sister, notably... OUR is, like, riddled with Tim's family members. Like, they're all over.
Red flag!
So, his sister, Emily, who is the organization's senior director of PR and marketing, responded to criticism of her brother's work by saying, "Tim is OUR and OUR is Tim." To add insult to injury, on the same call, Brad Damon, OUR's COO, likened Tim to Martin Luther King Jr.
Whoa!
Like, seriously. Come on. These people, like...
Red flag!
Like, his own family members are so lost in the sauce with this at this point. Like, he has everybody so wrapped up into this image. It's crazy to me. Okay, next slide. So, let's talk about the movie for a second. Sound of Freedom, movie posters on the left, very dramatic and... you know, catchy in the heartstrings. He's got the small child. So Sound of Freedom, which was based on Tim Ballard and what he does, hit theaters this summer. So the thing that they peddled was it's the incredible true story of OUR and all of Tim's nonsense. And so Tim required that, it says as part of the like film notes, that Tim required that he was played by
has to be
Jim
played by Jim
Caviezel.
Caviezel. Who Jim Caviezel, you may know him from Mel Gibson's Passion of the Christ playing Jesus.
Indeed. And like we said before, he's an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory peddling weirdo who takes any opportunity to talk about adrenochrome or like Wayfair kids or like, you know, Hillary Clinton eating babies or whatever it is. Like, Jim is like lost in it. He is beyond lost in it. And then Angel Studios, who was involved in creation production.
I don't know if they were involved in production. I think it was just
or funding.
Maybe because they were going with somebody else initially, and once it got shelved by all these other studios or whatever, Angel Studios was able to pick it up and go with it, I guess.
James probably talked about that in the video if I remember correctly.
It's been a while. We're done.
Since we watched it. There's too many damn details. So.
Oh, just to clarify, adrenochrome is the basis of the whole Pizzagate conspiracy, where there's apparently some satanic cabal, usually described as Jewish particularly, where they are kidnapping children and torturing them for a substance known as adrenochrome, which apparently keeps people looking young. There's such a rabbit hole. Don't even bother.
Insane.
Don't even bother. It is the most insane crock of shit you've ever heard.
Indeed. So Angel Studios, who was involved with this, is part of I can't remember if it's under the umbrella of, James talks about it in his video, I can't remember if it's under the umbrella of or one over the other of VidAngel, which VidAngel was a software that got in trouble because it modified regular, like your typical movie, media, TV shows, and it replaced like it covered up inappropriate words, so it would bleep out words, which is modifying copyright.
Yep.
So they got in trouble for that.
They literally talked to 0 lawyers. They didn't know anything about copyright. Idiots.
But VidAngel use was very popular among Mormons. Like one of the Mormon boys that I dated seriously in college, like his family used VidAngel for everything.
Well, and most importantly, it is up until very recently, they were working to produce The Chosen with Angel Studios, and they were streaming The Chosen on VidAngel streaming.
Whatever the hell it is. Yeah. And then Melissa, FYI, the origin of the world Kabbalah is inherently anti-Semitic. It is derived from Kabbalah, which is Jewish mysticism. Anytime someone alleges there is a Kabbalah, it is an anti-Semitic dog whistle. I actually learned that recently.
Okay, I didn't know that. Anybody who's ever described anything as a Kabbalah.
When I hear the word,
I've
when I
already
hear
know
that
it's
word, I'm like,
red flag.
Thank you, Melissa. So Angel Studios and VidAngel is Mormon created, invented, tried into return missionary, BYU grad, straight up and down Mormon. So their involvement in the production of this obviously is, makes sense, right? And then part of the Sound of Freedom and OUR just in general, is inflated and sensationalized nonsense. And there's an article that I'll share with you at the end that talks about it, but basically statistics around sex trafficking, particularly since the kind of merge of sex trafficking, particularly with right-wing and conservatism to the point of QAnon and conspiracy theory, it has merged into sex trafficking statistics or whatever the hell we want them to be.
Yeah.
There are 8 million kids being sex trafficked right now.
Yeah.
Like, it does not matter what it is. People will believe it. Like, we have these outrageously large numbers that OUR in the Sound of Freedom purports of people, like children, currently being trafficked, which are just blatantly inaccurate, not supported, no evidence. The numbers are much, much smaller than what they say it is. And does it still happen, and is it still awful in every sense of the word? Yes. But it becomes a problem when we're peddling something as this, like, insane, like, interwoven in the fabric of our current society that you walk down the street and every 3 people you pass a trafficker, or, you know, it's just turned into this massive thing that it is actually not. Yeah. So that's part of the damage that Sound of Freedom has done. And not only that, there was an article that Vice put out from survivors of trafficking who have talked about how inaccurate, how harmful the movie is, and anti-trafficking organizations who have come out and said how harmful the movie is to the task of, like, anti-trafficking, which is so freaking ironic, which constantly supports my point that Tim doesn't give a shit. Because if he cared, he wouldn't be continually doing things that sabotage the mission that he's trying to uphold.
The alleged mission.
Right? Like, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, it does. It's for money.
Yeah, I think it's just really representative of this whole right-wing reactionary movement as a whole. Because you see people talking about, oh, we need to save our children. We need to save our children from gender ideology or trans ideology or whatever the hell that means. And what they end up doing is just working themselves into a lather over nothing. Like, you just ask one of these hard line reactionaries, how many people do they think in the United States are trans? And they will just tell you some outlandish estimation that there's no way that could ever be true. And, you know, we love our trans friends, but we know that they're not a big slice of the population. And so when they're all going after this very small minority group, they have to inflate the numbers. They have to drum up this urgency and this panic in order to get their way, so they can stomp out the light that is our queer community here in the United States, and they can beat them back into the shadows because it threatens everything that they stand on. So when they're like, save our children, they can just make up whatever they want. They can drum up this same panic because there are people out there like Tim and the likes who are going to use this as a way that they can get money. And we're seeing this very narrative unfold before our eyes. And it's just really sad. Yeah. So when you see people talking about, oh, save our children or whatever, they don't have any idea what that really entails, because they'll fight against abortion. But okay, so you brought a baby into this world instead of having a fetus aborted. Then what? What are you doing to save that child? Especially if it was a pregnancy that wasn't necessarily wanted, that was the product of a crime that was committed or anything of the likes. And there's just no continuation of saving our children. It's just a grift.
I mean, that's what it is for Tim.
Yeah.
Like, hands down, that's all it is.
So if there are genuine people out there, you're going to have to prove it to me, because people like this, I mean, he was in the public eye reaping the rewards to the point where he has like this biopic circle jerk of himself. I mean, it's raised a bunch of red flags for any organization that claims to do the same or similar things.
Totally.
And then he just jumps on with this other, the Spear Foundation, which we're going to talk about later. They just bring him on when he gets ousted from OUR. Like, oh, man.
He nonprofit hops.
Yeah, it's
and
concerning.
Not to mention, it distances, I feel like, from like I had to do one particular training in grad school for social work related to trafficking specifically, like working with trafficking victims specifically in Utah. And I think part of what Tim does is we instill fear and panic, one, but Tim is really big on immigration and build the wall and all of those things.
Yep, there's a lot of pork that comes with these topics.
And so a lot of it is, he spends a lot of time on all the trafficking that's happening internationally, in Honduras, in the Dominican Republic, in all these other countries. And the focus is on all these other evil people or in all the other countries here. And it's just not the actual reality of trafficking statistics. Like, particularly, like, I can speak on Utah specifically. The number one, like, place, outlet, setting for sex trafficking within Utah is actually massage parlors. But that doesn't fit this narrative.
Nope.
That doesn't fit the narrative of these people are coming and they're coming for your kids. So
yeah,
it's just as what many of the survivors have talked about in this Vice article specifically. It warps the actual knowledge and evidence that we have around these topics. And then it prevents us at doing what is actually necessary and funneling money where it needs to be, instead of just me wanting to get off on being like vigilante G.I. Joe in another country. Like, I don't get it. So that's Utah specific. I imagine it's probably similar other places, but that's like specific to Utah. Okay, so the reason I put James' video on here was because he did
Shout out James, he's in the chat.
James is in the chat. He did a whole video, Funny Friday style, Sound of Freedom, Angel Studios, all that fun stuff. Very interesting, especially when, like, he got way more into the Sound of Freedom than I was ever able to get to in this, and he did it so much better than I could have. So I wanted to include the whole thing, but then we'd just be sitting here watching a Funny Fridays video, which I know you guys probably wouldn't have minded, but that's not what we're supposed to be doing here.
Yep.
So what I wanted to include was something that James talked about that was interesting about the Sound of Freedom, like movie-wise and ticket-wise, that we even experienced from a family member that we found very interesting. So I linked this with the timestamp, so hopefully it worked.
Is it in right there?
Yeah.
Before we go to this, somebody asked if he flies private when he goes to these jumps and stuff.
Absolutely he does.
I don't know if that he necessarily does.
Yes, he does, because
He
part
does?
of the investigation was how much money that they spent
Okay.
on luxury plane.
Okay. At one point, when I worked in a tire shop, I had a guy who would come in who said that he worked for OUR and he did booking for airlines and shit. And he was always telling me, oh, get the Delta Sky Miles card because it is the best one for frequent flyer miles. Anyway, so he was always talking about that. He seemed like a good guy. Tim never seemed like a good guy to me.
That's the other problem with this, is that the people that support it are good
Angel
people.
Studios-
It's the organization itself that's the problem.
Yeah. Well, he worked for them.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
still, I mean, the intention there.
We should still have accurate reports of both the number of tickets sold and the gross revenue made by Sound of Freedom. But now we have no real way to estimate just how many of these purchased tickets actually led to someone watching the movie. And then, to tie all of this to a film like Sound of Freedom, which so aggressively ties itself into a humanitarian cause that many people support, well, that's when things start to go haywire real quick. For reference, on August 1st of this year, Angel's Sound of Freedom ticket website reported almost 14 million tickets sold, and yet also reported just 242,284 contributors who had purchased donated tickets. Now, of course, this math may be missing some factors, and Angel Studios hasn't helped by being exceptionally tight-lipped about the exact breakdown of the purchase numbers and how all of that breaks down on their end. But at the end of the day, by the numbers that Angel has given us to work with, we can expect that each individual contributor to Sound of Freedom paid for an average of around 60 tickets per contributor, throwing the whole butts in seats ratio completely on its ear, or butt, as the case may be. And I believe it's this which led Angel to actually remove the contributor stat line from the website if you go there now, as you can see in this screen cap taken on August 14th. What we do know, though, is that by all accounts, Sound of Freedom has been a total and complete box office smash success. To date, its $172 million box office sales have it sitting as the 10th most successful theatrical release for all of 2023. It's beaten out some huge names to get there, too. Established box office draws like Indiana Jones, Transformers, and Fast X, with some analysts even calling the numbers big enough to declare Angel Studios a mini-major studio just from the success of this one release. But the thing is, none of these movies or studios had the assistance of these helpful zealots buying up large numbers of tickets and inflating the overall sales figures. Whereas Sound of Freedom...
So... Wait, go to this one because I thought this was interesting too.
Had the owner of In-N-Out Burger financing 6 completely free screenings at theaters, AMC theaters specifically, all across the country. And this is a great example of how the equity crowdfunding system gets really weird when you start tracking things like individual movie ticket purchases instead of just raw dollar amounts. And since Angels...
So I found this really interesting because part of the like bizarre thing to me about the Sound of Freedom, and McKay and I didn't see it because gross, but
Why would I?
but we had a family who did, and then James did so he could create this video. And one of the like most obnoxious but makes sense things of the video is at the end they're like, okay, well, you know, there are people who want to see this movie but can't, so you got to buy some tickets so that other people can see the movie. And it's just like this, I think they do it at the end, and it's just like this really impassioned
I think it was,
plea.
right before the credits roll.
Yeah,
is what they said.
I think it was Jim Caviezel too. I think James included that in the video, but obviously I can't throw that in here. But it's just like, but it's totally faulty. Like, this is why OUR is scam on scam on scam, because we're taking the movie and fudging the movie. Like, there's not many people that can fudge stats with a movie.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty impressive. So this was a really interesting angle for the movie that I thought, just based on that alone. But there's many, many, many things wrong with the movie and the intersection of Angel Studios and, you know, Jim Caviezel and all of those things. So James' video is awesome because it breaks down all of the things that, many of them that I didn't even think of. So go watch theirs. When we're done here, I'll link it in the description too. But Fundy Fridays channel, you know where to go.
If you are on this channel, you already know
Yeah.
about Fundy Fridays. All right, Baloney, I'm going to need you to move because I can't see my scenes right now.
Baloney.
Please don't.
You gotta not let him see
Okay.
the mouse.
Okay, we're safe now.
Okay.
Safe from Baloney.
Safe from the bones. Okay, so this is my fave Instagram account, the MLM Police. They compiled a bunch of the shitty things that OUR has done. And I tried to do this myself, and I was like, oh my God, I just don't have time to go through all these things. So this is a lovely list. That is not all of it. Baloney. Baloney.
Do not cut my video feed.
Oh my God, he's going to put his face in the camera. Baloney.
Just continue. Just continue.
He is so not intelligent. He's literally holding the camera with his hand. So Lynn Packer, like I said, is the journalist from the beginning of this presentation, American Crime Journal, I think. And this was part of, hey, he's eating the camera. This is part of the interview that he did with John DeLynn on Mormon Stories. So this is a list of possible fraud perpetuated. Baloney. Oh my God.
I have to intervene.
You have to get him. Show him to the camera so you guys can get a nice little treat. Oh.
Cute little noise. Here he is. Here's the perpetrator.
You can't see his face. Okay.
Not a single fold in that brain.
None. Sorry. I don't know why he's taken to eating the camera. So here is the things that Lynn Packer found. Stockpiling $30 million in donations that are not being used to save children.
Oh.
Stockpiling millions of dollars. Who does that sound like?
Oh.
Excessive.
Change the M for a B on that one.
Indeed. Excessive compensation to Tim Ballard, over $300,000 a year. For not doing anything to actually rescue the children, allegedly, he shouldn't be making that much money. My opinion.
Crazy.
Lavish expenditures, first-class flights, 5-star hotels, dramatic helicopter appearances with no financial accountability about how funds are used. Which is a sketchy place to be when you run a 501c3, because government is much more intense on a 501c3 since they are tax exempt.
Yup.
Using false statistics to overstate the prevalence of child sex trafficking worldwide to lure donors. We've talked about that. Those inflating statistics are purposeful for a reason, right? Like, we know why they're doing that. Using excessive emotion and religious manipulation to lure donors, including claims to be called of God. Literally mentioned in the investigative report at one point that one of the people within working for OUR had said that some people had viewed Tim as like the Messiah. Basically.
Ew.
So, God complex to an extreme. Claiming credit for raids that they were not involved with, and engaging in illegal and unsafe raids, which is practically all of them, because there's been many. I read at least one article that talked about how there are certain like law enforcement agencies or like groups that will not allow them to get involved with them because they know how much of a liability it is and they know that they're not trained. So that's just embarrassing when you are this nonprofit purporting that you're helpful and offer resources, and the people who are actually trained to do this work are like, don't get anywhere near me.
Dude, yeah.
Like,
get out of here.
That's insane. And yes, Melissa, that is very much against Mormon doctrine. That is blasphemy. Literally.
We'll probably be bringing that up later.
Yeah. And then unsavory behavior of jump team members, including illegal drug use during raids, sexual assault, etc. Again, this is all information that was founded by Lynn Packer, the journalist. And so that also doesn't surprise me. I I read one thing that I think came from the Vice article, or maybe not. I can't remember. This is alleged because I can't remember the exact source, but it was like a Mormon missionary or returned missionary that they had. No, it was a BYU student that they had taken on a raid, and he got in trouble at a strip club while on the raid. So again, unsavory behavior, bringing people on these things who shouldn't be on them to begin with. And then victimizing and politicizing the suffering of children. We watched that promotional video of the raid earlier. You already know that's the perfect example. Taking advantage of known false conspiracy theories like the Wayfair scandal that we talked about a little bit ago. Yeah, and illicit drug use is against the rules of Mormonism too, so that shouldn't be happening at all anyway. And then using the LDS Church's law firm, Curtin and McConkie, to intimidate and silence whistleblowers, which we've talked about before. We've talked about Curtin and McConkie before. I did not have even near enough time to get into Curtin and McConkie's involvement in this, but that is something that we will actually have to come back to.
Oh, that's McConkie. McConkie being one of the law partners. Mm-hmm. His son was recently arrested in Colorado Springs.
Oh,
that was his son. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, Bruce R.
brother
McConkie.
of Bruce R. McConkie.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. His son was just arrested for things that apparently Tim is trying to root out.
Ironic.
Really cute look. Really cute look.
Okay, next one. Okay, so now I don't know why I left out the N on there. We have to talk about Janet Rousson. I think that's her last name. I spelled it wrong. Anyway, so we have to talk about Janet. So I just want you to keep this image in mind as we talk about Janet, because I know most of you are going to have no idea who she is, but just keep this image in mind. So we've got Janet sitting next to Tim in the back of a car on a mission / a raid. So next slide, please. So let's talk about who Janet is. This is a much better picture of Janet. Damn it, Janet.
Damn it, Janet.
Janet, we're just going to hop right in. Janet talks to dead Mormon leaders.
Wow, you did it twice.
What the heck?
Way to go.
I probably copied it. Did you hear what I just said?
Yes, I did. And wow.
Particularly,
what a claim.
A Mormon prophet from 600 BC named Nephi to get intel on where to find Gardy Marty in particular, but also with respect to a slew of other things. And I'll come back to that other piece in a second. Donors, Rawlings added. Rawlings is the state attorney that was investigating OUR at the time. Donors are not made aware that Nephi, via should be Miss Rousson, is the key piece of our OUR operational intelligence.
What? Hold on. Let me just get in contact with Farah Archeron real quick so she can tell me where some kidnapped person is real quick. Because that's all Nephi is. He's a fan fiction character. Bible fan fiction character.
I just can't.
I'd heard that they were using fortune tellers or whatever, but I did not know that it was this extensive.
So
until Jordan was
telling you.
Yeah.
So the second paragraph, before I'll come back to who Gardy Marty is, 2 former OUR insiders told investigators that Rousson and her psychic visions were a key part of OUR. So the people they were talking about are former people involved with OUR, which is a former Navy SEAL who worked with the group on overseas missions and oversaw OUR operations in Haiti, and a former director of development whose name Vice News is withholding at her request. Lopez told investigators that the psychic, Rousson, identified specific locations in Haiti where the missing boy was said to be. The former development director added that Rousson was solely vouched for by Ballard, who in her telling intimated,
yeah, I guess.
That M. Russell Ballard was aware of her visions, of how her visions guided OUR work. God, that last sentence was a beast for me for some reason. So basically what this means is that Ballard used this Nephi communicator to find missing children and as part of OUR work. And apparently they're saying that M. Russell Ballard, who is highest of the high leadership other than the prophet himself in the Mormon church, he's one of the 12, was aware of this.
it's crazy to me that they were like, yes, let's get in contact with this dead prophet Nephi. Somehow he knows what's going on. The more plausible thing would be, let's get in contact with the 3 Nephites who the Lord allowed to tarry until his return, and he gave them eternal life. Here in the Americas, they were 3 of the apostles in the Americas, and or the disciples, whatever.
This is
Don't
insane
come for me.
behavior.
Yeah.
If you are like a paramilitary, like underground operating association, getting traffickers arrested, like relying on somebody like this to like guide your operational intelligence. I have nothing against anybody who like is psychic or feels that they has spiritual abilities or whatever. Like, I don't care.
This is fake. This is a psychic who is basing their connection in fiction, like literal verifiable fiction.
So that being said, it's not appropriate in this context, especially when we're talking about something so serious, but also bearing in mind that like psychics, tarot, all of those things are not okay within
They're
Mormonism.
Expressly
Forbidden. Like consulting a psychic for any purpose, forbidden. Tarot cards, forbidden. Like all of those things, this is not
Rocking a hat, approved.
Okay.
Approved.
Okay.
But yeah, not cards or anything. Has to be a rock, and it has to be in a hat.
Indeed. Okay, next slide.
Is there anything that talks about maybe their relationship prior to her work at OUR? Maybe she just needed to be on the bankroll or anything like that?
I don't know. I did run across someone who unverifiably said that they grew up with her, and she was in their ward, and she's always been this way. Like, not just with Nephi, but like with being in contact with like dead ancestors and things. So it sounds like this isn't like just an OUR specific thing, but that was something I read on the internet that's unverifiable at this point.
You'd think that if he had CIA experience, he could just use that.
She was being paid, though, and she was being paid a lot of money.
Yeah, that's why I think that maybe she just needed to be on the rolls. Although, such a weird-ass thing to be, like, very public about.
So, we've come full circle back to our painting here. And I included this just because we've touched on kind of the racial and cultural insensitivities here with the name itself. But then this painting, which we've also talked about, how we have this random person in the front who is a representative of anyone who is participating in trying to free children. And then we have Tim Ballard, who the arrow is pointing at, with his wife, Catherine, behind him. And then we've got the literal railroad here and all of these famous people. I see Abe Lincoln back there. We've got Harriet Tubman.
It's too far for me to really make out any
can't.
particular faces, but
I just know that those two are listed in the picture description. But again, another example of where, particularly, I can't remember how long ago it was, but he was, like, the organization was called out by Black activists who were like, maybe consider changing the name because this is
insensitive
and inappropriate
at the very best.
And so maybe consider that. And then this painting by John McNaughton is just, I don't even have words. And so, and John McNaughton, who painted this, gets called out for that shit all the time, and he doesn't care. And apparently OUR and Tim don't.
No, none of them do. They literally do not care.
They don't.
It's just critical race theory bullshit to
Indeed.
these people. They don't care.
Okay, next one. Okay, I included this one because I didn't even know about this one, and I thought it was really interesting. The Elizabeth Smart Foundation. If you're not familiar with Elizabeth Smart, she was a young Mormon girl who was kidnapped and had a horrible, traumatic experience where she was held by her captors for a very long time.
Years.
Not far from her home, actually. Yeah. And was she eventually found someone. She ran and found someone. Those people are still in prison, I'm pretty sure.
I'd hope so.
So that's Elizabeth Smart. She is like phenomenal, super strong, amazing. She is Mormon. She was Mormon. Don't know if she still is. But she had a foundation, obviously, that spoke to some of her experiences and wanting to make a difference. And so in 2014, OUR and her foundation actually merged. They made the decision to bring the two of them together since they had similar kind of missions. So Ed Smart, who is Elizabeth's dad, was named OUR's Director of Prevention and Rehabilitation, or Aftercare, which we've mentioned before. But then not very long after, Ed Smart, Elizabeth's dad, left OUR reportedly in disgust. Apparently, he was dissatisfied with how OUR actually handled the aftercare of purported rescued sex slaves. Elizabeth and Ed Smart severed all ties with OUR, terminating the merger. This came from Damian Moore from the American Crime Journal. But I found this very interesting because, like, two organizations with very similar end goals, very similar things in mind, and then being able to just be like, no, you suck, this is awful, we're done. So that was the merger of this, and there was never anything outside of this, which is very amusing to me, that it was literally like shit went down and they never talked about it ever again.
Yeah. How long after the merger was that?
What?
That Ed Smart left?
Only a few months.
Oh my God. Wow, only a few months to show their true colors. That's crazy.
Right? Okay. And then I have to include this because it's one of the most popular things surrounding Tim Ballard. I'm not going to go into it because it is insanely complex. Kara Burrell, Nuance Ho, did a nice breakdown on her Instagram, but I'll break it down for you a little bit too. So this was August of 2019. Tim Ballard, head of OUR, decides to hold a meeting with the big name people that are involved with OUR. And so each person that was involved in this meeting actually had to sign an NDA. So he knew what he was going to be doing. So this quote comes directly from Lynn Packer, who's done all the investigating from the American Crime Journal. So this kind of insane picture that you see on the left, which I'll break down more in a second, not only would Ballard and his team be funneling donor money into his for-profit ventures, but to the LDS Church. They would also start converting employees, volunteers, and vulnerable children that Operation Underground Railroad is supposed to aid and rescue into the Mormon Church. Ballard believed that he would quickly gain the favor of church leadership and the Mormon elite, eventually securing a coveted lifetime appointment on the LDS Church's highest governing body, the Quorum of the 12 Apostles. So flip back to me real quick.
Yo, that's crazy.
So part of this whiteboard thing is M. Russell Ballard was listed on this board of Tim's like insane handwriting. But it was noted on this board that he was silent. So he was a silent participant that other people knew that they could not speak of, but he was still involved, according to Tim. However, the other thing that's interesting about this is not only was Tim looking to get all of these different nonprofit organizations to funnel ultimately into his wallet for his for-profit ventures. Not only that, but his mission was partly laced within Mormonism. Because the irony of all of this is they were taking the people outside of these trafficking things and they were like, you know what? We have the perfect opportunity to grab people who are vulnerable and need support and need consistency and stability and something to stand on. And you know what does that? Mormonism. And so what can we do? We can not only take these trafficked kids and we can give them support and stability and do all these things, which I think still could probably be beefed up based on what I've read. But then what we could do is we can funnel them into the church. We can give them church jobs. We can send them on missions. We can send them to church adoption agencies, which the church does have. And if you piece all this together in your mind, we're literally just trafficking. We're taking children that have been
more
trafficked,
steps.
and then we're trafficking them into a Mormon adoption agency and trafficking them to Mormon families.
Crazy.
That is the crux of all of this, basically. Is not only is it for profit money-wise, but it's also church.
Well, here's also the Mormon angle of it, because we always have to bring it into here. Tim Ballard is Mormon. They're based in Utah. A lot of people that work for them are Mormon. Endowed Mormon members, meaning they covenanted in the temple that they would consecrate everything that they own and every dollar that they have to the building up of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, not the kingdom of God, specifically the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So every person who believes that it is the true church, this is also part of what they're working towards. It can't just be, I'm making money. It's also, I'm using this as a tool to build up the church. And if I can use it as a tool to convert people, to take these people who I quote unquote save and convert them and make them into missionaries who maybe convert more people, that is like the grander objective that they can accomplish. So they can feel good about whatever they're doing because they're essentially emissaries to God and doing that. And when you think about it, even in Preach My Gospel, which is the handbook that the missionaries go off of in order and tactics that they use, one of the biggest things in the finding people section is looking for people who have had tragedy, who have had their lives, quote unquote, upset by moving to a new area, who have had a death in the family, who have had a new baby. So a lot of these high emotion situations is what they're precisely looking for in order to slip in and talk about Mormonism, so that it just fits so perfectly.
Exactly. So the next slide that I have breaks it down. Lynn Packer kind of makes it more concise. So, in summary, other than what I've just kind of explained to you, we've got multiple Ballard-controlled for-profit and non-profit entities, all of the non-profit basically sketchily funneling back into for-profit. So we've got the several paths for donor money to flow directly from Tim Ballard's nonprofit entities into his main for-profit company, Slave Stealers LLC, which I also don't have time to get into that whole thing. But know that the main point here is that we're taking money that's designated as nonprofit and sketchily moving it into something that's not. And then the other two focuses being how OUR would bring more converts into the Mormon faith, and then its implied deep involvement by acting president of the LDS Church, M. Russell Ballard. So, president of the Quorum of the 12.
Yeah, president of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles.
And that's from Lynn Packer also. So, the kind of investigation that we've talked about up to this point was very vague when it was announced. So the Davis County Attorney's Office announced that they were investigating OUR, which was around the time that we were thinking about doing something about them with a video. And now we know that the review charges were communications fraud, witness tampering, retaliation against a witness, victim or informant, according to a declination statement, which Rawlings, the Davis County attorney, confirmed was authentic. And so there were various kind of complaints and things that had come in that had to be investigated by the state. And then after 2.5 years, the investigation was closed in March of 2023 with no charges filed. So the information, now that the case is closed, there's been information requests coming in from various news agencies, which we're seeing, especially now, pulling the information from that investigation. And so that's where we're getting a lot of the things that are coming out right now. Interestingly, we can't watch this because it's from a news agency and we don't want to get claimed, but
it's the most embarrassing thing.
It's the most embarrassing thing. So this is a Fox 13 News, is a normal popular news station within Utah. They do an interview with Tim Ballard where the reporter was very kind, was not confrontational at all. But in February of this year, shortly before Tim left OUR, he throws a fit and walks out of the interview after being questioned about the investigation. So this reporter didn't even really get into him. He was like, do you have anything that you want to say? Or do you want to make any comments about the investigation or something along those lines? But Tim lost it. He said a few words and then he was like, I'm not doing this anymore. like, if this is how you're going to be, I'm done.
Yeah.
And so then he rips off his microphone, and the guy whose hand you can see is like, whoa, 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 slow down. And he takes his microphone off, grabs his shit, and then leaves.
Yep.
Like, mid-interview. It's wild.
It's wild. You have to see it. Look it up.
Apparently, John played it on his channel earlier. So you can go watch it on John's channel, or you can just look it up. But it was very amusing to me to see him throw such a freaking fit over something that wasn't even like a, this is all your fault. I know this all this information that you don't know I know type situation. Like, he easily could have been like, I can't comment on it and let that be. But he couldn't just do that. He had to melt down about it.
It's giving, I can do everything on my own. I don't need anybody to help me. But I wasn't prepared to answer this question. So I'm just going to storm out.
Indeed. Okay, next one. So this is the picture of Sean Reyes that I said I would bring up again. I don't know where this is from. I don't know how legitimate this
loser.
is.
No, it's legit. I've seen it too. He's a loser.
So that's the Utah Attorney General, who is good friends with Tim Ballard, and he is wearing an OUR patch on his shirt.
On his plate carrier.
Tactical vest, whatever you want to call it. So we are up to speed now with what is happening before all the shit hits the fan and Tim starts losing it. Okay. So a few days before Tim starts to lose all his marbles, we have this post from Sean Reyes, who is the dude on the right, the Attorney General of Utah.
Yeah, this was I think the same day that Mitt Romney announced that he was retiring, which was just ahead of the shitstorm that was about to come.
Which is funny because that is how Mitt Romney is involved in all this. So I'll read you this post. This is from Attorney General of Utah. I wish Senator Romney and his family the best in retirement. Over the last several years, I've been asked by many in Utah, D.C., and across the country to run for his seat, whether or not he was running for re-election. I believe I am well positioned to run and win that seat and could serve well as senator. But after a long time consulting with my family, praying and looking at where I can make the most difference and serve most effectively, I have decided it is not in D.C., but here at home, so I am announcing my run for re-election as Attorney General in the great state of Utah. The bottom paragraph is what's important to us. That opens up an opportunity for a dear friend of mine who is a great conservative, patriot, and warrior to run and serve as the next senator from Utah. This person will be making an announcement in the days to come, and I will be standing alongside this servant leader on a journey to the United States Senate. So Mitt Romney, Utah senator, retires, so his Senate seat is up for grabs. And then we get this comment from Sean Reyes, who is besties with Tim. Okay, so people started putting pieces together, and then John DeLynn came out with a statement saying that he had it on good authority from other people within his circles and Mormon circles that Tim Ballard is the one that he was talking about. So a Tim Ballard Senate bid is where we're at right now, okay? And then here's what comes next. McKay found this on the Instagram, on Tim's Instagram. This was on September 9th. People are speculating that it possibly has to do with his Senate run. I don't know what the hell this is. Nobody knows. It's weird, ambiguous letters with no explanation, and he did not elaborate whatsoever, and he has just posted this and not said anything about it. And so I don't know if this was like a slogan or like...
Yeah.
I don't know.
Thinking
maybe
on getting the fuck off. I don't know.
I don't know what it is. So I included that just because I was like, there's this weird cryptic thing and I don't know what it is. But anyway, next slide.
I mean, it with what Sean Reyes said and then this cryptic message. And he's been posting this he posted it a couple times throughout the past few months. But I mean, it's pretty obvious what's going on.
Mitt Romney's son could run. There is some speculation around that. But Romney is not well liked in Utah anymore, so I don't think.
Yeah, I think Romney Sr. probably ruined any shot at Romney Jr. running.
Yeah. So now we have trouble in Mormon City. We have the straw that broke the camel's back, if you will. So a statement was given by a church spokesperson that set all this into motion. So this statement from the church spokesperson that has been verified reads as follows.
Verified even by the governor of the state of Utah himself.
Correct. And the church-owned news
Spencer Cox.
agency.
Yep.
So, President Ballard, this is the church's statement. President Ballard and Tim Ballard, no relation, established a friendship a number of years ago. That friendship was built on a shared interest in looking after God's children, wherever they are and without regard to their circumstance, unless they're gay. However, that relationship is in the past. Burn. For many months, President Ballard has had no contact with the founder of OUR. The nature of that relationship was always in support of vulnerable children being abused, trafficked, and otherwise neglected.
Wow, that relationship was in support of the vulnerable children being abused.
Yeah, that's not worded very well.
Yeah, that was poor wording, buddy.
PR department didn't really help with this one. Once it became clear Tim Ballard had betrayed their friendship through the unauthorized use of President Ballard's name for Tim Ballard's personal advantage, an activity regarded as morally unacceptable, President Ballard withdrew his association. President Ballard never authorized his name or the name of the church to be used for Tim's personal or financial interest. In addition, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints never endorsed, supported, or represented OUR, Tim Ballard, or any projects associated with them. President Ballard loves children all over the world. It has been his mission and life's work to look after them, care for them, and point them to their Savior, unless they're gay. So, the important things are highlighted in this statement. Tim Ballard betrayed their friendship with the big, important Mormon leader and used President Ballard's name for his personal and financial advantage and unknown activity that is regarded as morally unacceptable. With what we're hearing about Tim lately, I would say that's morally unacceptable.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if that's what they're referring to or not.
Particularly in Mormon standards.
Indeed. So the other interesting part here is that the church is saying they never endorsed, supported, or represented OUR.
Which is
Largely false. Go
a
to the
lie.
next slide.
Not just false, it is a lie. Outright.
And we'll come back to that in a second. So we have Tim leaving his life's work organization, the organization that he founded and rose from the ground and is his baby. And then he mysteriously, suspiciously leaves and nobody says anything about why. So, from Anna Merlin, from Vice News, sources familiar with the situation said that the self-styled anti-slavery activist who appears to be preparing for a Senate run invited women to act as his wife on undercover overseas missions ostensibly aimed at rescuing victims of sex trafficking. He would then allegedly coerce those women into sharing a bed, showering together, claiming that it was necessary to fool traffickers. Ballard, who was played by Jim Caviezel in the hit film Sound of Freedom, is said to have sent at least one woman a photo of himself in his underwear, festooned with fake tattoos, and to have asked another how far she was willing to go, in the words of a source, to save children. These sources requested anonymity, I can't say the word.
Anonymity.
Because, anonymity, I can't say it. Because,
Anonymity.
Yeah, that. Because they fear retaliation.
Oh.
So, investigation of sexual misconduct is what comes out now, that he was being investigated by OUR's HR department after complaints were made, and thus the sexual misconduct allegations and the investigation that followed that pushed him out the door. So go to the next one.
Let's go to the next one. Sorry, Mike.
So, details wise, to give everyone a better picture kind of what's going on. The total number of women involved is believed to be higher than 7, as that would only account for employees, not contractors or volunteers. One source close to OUR has detailed knowledge of Ballard making sexual advances to a volunteer using methods similar to those he allegedly used with OUR employees. Those methods are also consistent with his conduct toward another former volunteer who spoke to Vice News. It was ultimately revealed through disturbingly specific and parallel accounts that Tim has been deceitfully and extensively grooming and manipulating multiple women for the past few years with the ultimate intent of coercing them to participate in sexual acts with him under the premise of going where it takes and doing whatever it takes to save a child.
This is just outright demon shit.
This is disgusting. Like, this is literally antithetical to the thing that he seems so driven to uphold.
Yeah.
Like, this is grooming. And I mean, if we're talking about taking women who live in the United States to another country for the purpose of having sex with them, that is literally sex trafficking. Like the organization.
abolitionist becomes the trafficker.
Literally, like it is like it's so beyond on the nose at this point.
Yeah.
Like it's unbelievable.
It's like some sort of tongue-in-cheek joke at this point. Like, how do you get so lost in the sauce that you're doing exactly what people are donating big money for you to fight against? It's crazy.
Indeed. Hello, indeed. Okay, next one. Okay, so this is, after all these allegations and things come out, this is what Tim has to say.
I don't think you linked it.
Did I not?
Boo.
If you double click on it.
Nope. Just
No.
goes forward.
Bing bong.
Bing bong. Jordan's going to send it to me. Please hold. We will be returning with our regularly scheduled content in just a moment. Everybody go jump up and grab a snack. He was too good for Ashley Madison. I mean, look at him. He's so much cuter than Josh Duggar. Too good for Ashley Madison. The Void, happy 9 months in the Celestial Kingdom. Swear to God, the Mormon Church is more off the shits every time I tune into this channel. Real talk. Interesting news about General Conference occurring this weekend. The Prophet, Rusty Nelson, and a bulldog that took a piece of shit and ran with it, Jeffrey Holland will not be in attendance at conference this year because of health complications.
It is a big deal
Apparently,
for the prophet of the church to not
Rusty
attend.
fell or
He
some
fell
shit
down.
like that.
The dude's 99 years old.
He's 99. He's on the outs. Let's call it like it is.
I texted it to you.
Sorry.
But also seems mighty convenient. Oh, sweetie, no. Trust only God for once, according to Facebook.
That's crazy
Interesting.
platform to be running on, especially with how things are going for Timmy right now.
No kidding.
Let's see here.
Yeah, make sure to like the video and make sure you're subscribed also, dear friends.
Dear friends. Let me hit the pause as soon as it starts.
It's coming
Okay.
off like delayed on my screen.
It is looking kind of shitty. What's going on here? Wow, it's really choppy. Is it choppy for everybody? I'm just taking a moment here to...
I haven't seen anybody say anything about it, but...
Maybe it's just you. Who knows?
Well, go ahead and play the video and see.
Oh, now it's smooth again.
Oh, that's fine.
Anyway.
That's weird.
Here we go. All right. I was trying to get logged into Instagram before we started, but
Didn't work.
I couldn't log it in for whatever reason. Anyway.
I'm in a very special place right now in Washington, D.C., the Soldier's Home, the Lincoln Cottage. Abraham Lincoln lived here during the summer months, and especially the summer of 1862 when he was writing the Emancipation.
Can we get somebody to fact check that? Because I don't believe a single thing that comes out of this guy's mouth at this point.
Proclamation, which was very difficult. He was being lied about. He was having so much pressure upon him. Don't do it, his advisors told him, because the North may not accept it. He believed that if he did it, it would lead to the end of slavery. So lots of pressure and having to make a decision. I currently am under fire with false allegations from sources that we have not been able to determine yet. I'm sure you've seen some of this in the press. And I want to read you the statement that the Spear Fund, an organization dedicated...
Did he turn off comments?
You might not be able to see them.
Oh, I might not. Oh, okay. I'm not logged
No,
in.
you
Okay,
didn't.
sorry.
to rescuing children by partnering with multiple organizations around the world. We just made deals in Central America so that we can target those traffickers who are hurting children. They will soon be residents in the United States because they're trying to get them there. I testified about this in Congress last week. I called out the president for the policies that are causing this pain. And I also, at that moment, admitted that, yes, I am considering running for public office and determining whether I could fight the fight better there. It's not a coincidence that just within 3 days of that, all hell breaks loose in the press and false allegations are brought upon me. And because of that, and because of the fact that, like Lincoln, who was in this house, I will not stop, I will not give up, no matter the pressures upon me, no matter the pain to me or to my family, because of lies, I will not. And to that end, I'd like to read you this statement. Tim Ballard issues statement affirming commitment to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Salt Lake City, September 18th.
He's holding his phone like such a boomer.
Also, I like how he's
No offense to boomers.
quoting an article that is quoting him.
Yeah, well,
He's holding it way far.
September 18th,
Well,
2023.
It's also funny because he's like, isn't that a such a coincidence? That's totally not a coincidence that as soon as I'm considering running for public office, all of this shit is coming out. Like it's the first time that it's ever happened. Because, like, historically, when people are announcing that they're going to run, when they're not politicians, the first thing everybody does is dig into who they are. Like,
Yeah.
This is not unique to you, buddy.
The Spear Fund, an organization funding and collaborating with a coalition of experts, organizations, and concerned citizens from around the globe to end human trafficking in our time, is releasing a statement on behalf of Senior Advisor Tim Ballard. And the statement reads, rescuing kids and fighting child trafficking is an ugly and dark business, especially when, as the result of my work for more than 20 years, we continue to expose members of powerful, well-funded child trafficking cartels. Evil pedophiles, traffickers will stop at nothing, and they have allies. Allies in government, in the media, in big corporations, and even in public institutions. They continue to lie about me and attempt to destroy my good name, and they will never stop. I want everyone to know that I and our vast army of supporters will likewise never stop. We will keep fighting for the vulnerable all over the globe, and we know that the truth will always prevail. I am a faithful member in good standing in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I believe in Jesus Christ, the Holy Scriptures, and I believe in our faith with all of my heart. That, no matter what, will never change. Now, it's been alleged that an unnamed LDS church spokesperson issued a
You sure about that? Mm-hmm. You sure about that?
statement
Come back to that.
about me through a tabloid that is often hostile to people of faith. Further, my church has not publicly verified its authenticity. We are also highly suspicious about the timing of such a statement, given its close proximity to Mitt Romney's announcement that he is retiring, and my own public comments that I am prayerfully considering running for public office. The LDS Church does not engage in political activity.
Cap.
In any event, nothing will change my core beliefs.
Wrong.
If someone within the church did release this statement, I am absolutely confident that the right people will step in and ensure that proper due process is followed as the rules of our church dictate. I, my family, and the Spear Fund team will confidently move forward and focus on our mission of saving children from the horrors of sex slavery and remaining fierce defenders of freedom. We invite anyone who shares this passion to please join us. Thank you.
He really thought he cooked there.
He's so proud of himself.
He really thought he cooked.
And the wind, oh my god, I compared it to those of you who were in Fundy Snark, like Brittany Dawn's apology video where she has the dryer going and there's zippers that are just like constantly
Clanging
clanking
around in
against
there.
the... It's like so distracting. Like, dude, just go talk about it inside. Like, pick a white wall, stand in front of it, and just read the
No,
damn
he
thing.
really needed to be in front of the soldiers' home, whatever the hell, where apparently his main man, Abe Lincoln, was doing, I don't know, staying there during the summer. Sounds miserable to me.
There's a lot of people who have pointed out that he has some like physical, not like traits, but like observable features that almost look like alcohol-y, like somebody who consumes a lot, which I wouldn't rule out. If I was Tim Ballard, I'd drink all the damn time because I hate myself. But
Oh, this guy loves himself.
but there's nothing more, like, if we're speaking from somebody who maybe has narcissistic tendencies, like I think Timmy does, there's nothing more like
Come here.
narcissistic wounding is deep, and there's nothing deeper for a narcissist than to have their own character and values and personal image questioned or shattered in any way. And so if he's experiencing some wounding right now, I wouldn't doubt it. So that is an interesting point. Yeah, and if he's red, it could be he's sunburned, could be he has rosacea, I have rosacea, like it, you know, there's a million different things. Would I rule it out? I don't know. I don't think I would. Okay, next slide. So I wanted to include some of the comments because the biggest thing about Tim and the biggest thing about his mission is that it's very hard to level any criticism against him that will be received from a neutral place, because Tim has always perpetuated the narrative that because of what he does, he will always be targeted. He will always be targeted by media. He will always be targeted by, you know, like the conspiracy theories around like celebrities wanting to maintain sex trafficking rings for their own gain. Like, because of what he does, he will always be targeted, and there will always be people who will bring him down. And so that serves him largely in this role, because no matter what is leveled at him, no matter what is thrown, he can just say, you know, it's the media. They're trying to take me down. It's the message. Like, because of what I do, this will always happen. So it's hard for anyone to interpret anything against him. It's hard for most people to interpret things with like real consequences and real facts and evidence, because there's this like, it's the media, it's the big lie, it's the left, it's the agenda.
Yeah, it's the satanic cabal.
Right, like all the conspiracy shit. And so these are the comments that he gets. Like, I'm LDS, and I know this is not coincidence. The Lord is using you to help you out innocent babies. God is with you. I pray for you every day. I love you, and a brother of my faith. I'm here to support you. Like, together we will win this war. It's no coincidence that they're attacking you and your character. All that means is they're scared you will find the truth, and you are closer to it now than ever. Don't give up. The media is an absolute disgrace. I hope all the payoff money they're getting helps them sleep at night. Karma will have its day with these people. Baloney. That's not part of it. Baloney's trying to eat the camera again. We know the truth. Keep fighting for God's children. Same game they always play. It's clockwork at this point, and people see it. Keep going. Like, all of these things, like any criticism against him, is just dismissed by these people. Like,
yeah,
you're doing God's work.
At this point, it's cult of personality territory.
Totally.
He can do no wrong because, and that's kind of like part of the insidious nature of this subject matter as well. Like, and I brought this up last week. How do you even criticize this thing? He's claims to be out here literally saving children. How do you pick any point of criticism and levy that against somebody like that and have it not come off being like, oh, this guy doesn't like that he's saving children from trafficking? Like, it puts them in such a superposition where it's so hard to come down from that, or to bring them down a peg or anything like that, especially when they're putting out sensationalized things. They're buffing their numbers. They're putting out these little videos of them doing jumps or whatever the hell they call them. So it's just, the perfect storm, in all honesty.
Indeed. Okay, next one. So when McKay and I said it's false that the church ever, like, didn't support Tim or OUR, this is why.
Did you take a picture of this?
No, the news did.
This is a picture of a screen.
It absolutely is, and the news took it.
Fox 13, always on the struggle bus.
Yeah. Nelson is skipping conference because apparently he fell, and it needs to not be there.
Sounds like he had life alert. Good on him.
So the LDS Church takes down articles promoting Tim Ballard and Operation Underground Railroad. They were removed the same day of the church issuing a statement condemning Ballard for morally unacceptable behavior. The church does this all the time. Anytime there's anything that the church changes their mind about or they get negative attention on, they'll just delete it.
Yep.
They do it all the time. They don't care. We always take screenshots beforehand. Everybody has, like, many people have screenshots of the articles that Ballard was in. And then suddenly when you go to look them up, it's page not found. Like, they know what they're doing.
Oh, yeah. Let's see. I think all you have to do is LDS Operation Underground Railroad. And you can find the hyperlink unless they finally were able to get rid of it. It might be buried now. But I saw this. Like, I was going to pull up that statement for somebody who didn't believe me. And I was like, oh, here's a whole section on the church's website about OUR. And it hit me with the page not found. So
Yeah.
They may have deleted it by now. This was a couple weeks ago. So.
It'll take them a while to get it all. There are probably others
Yeah.
that we don't even know about, but this is why we say that that's bullshit. Next slide. Okay, so I should have linked this one. So try this one. It's on the image. Yes,
It
I
worked.
did.
It worked. Hold on. I think we're okay. Oh, wait, Timmy. We're not ready. Okay.
A very important undercover tactic that we use that involves female operators. Based on the allegations that are flying around and the questions being asked, we've decided to tell you these tactics. While I do so, I'm going to pay homage, respect,
Homage.
love, and
Thank you very much.
gratitude for these female operators who serve such an important role in rescue operations. You need to understand that children don't just fall out of the sky. They don't fall into your desk. It's a very proactive.
Really? Son of a bitch, man.
Work. So if I am a man or one of my operators approached by a trafficker trying to put a child to service on that person, or a sex worker, and that operator doesn't partake of what's being offered, they lose credibility. And so we came up with a concept that we call the couple's ruse or the couple's tactic, where you go in together pretending to be a husband or a wife or boyfriend, girlfriend. Now you go in and one of you could pretend that, yes, I want to partake in this sex act with this woman or this child, but I can't because my girlfriend won't let me, but maybe we can do it later. So is that cool? Like,
There's no way that ever would fucking work. No fucking shot.
I mean, I don't doubt
Oh,
that.
I'm here. We're with all these trafficked kids, and my wife's over there. But I can't do the good stuff because my wife's over there. She knows I'm talking to you guys about buying services. Come on.
Well, I wouldn't doubt that they do, like, things where it's a couple versus a one, or, like, I wouldn't doubt that they use things like that, but this is not about the thing itself. This is about the timing. Because doing this is one thing. Pulling this out as something that you use conveniently after you've been accused of these things seems mighty convenient.
Yeah.
let's keep talking and she'll warm up to it eventually. But the bottom line is we block for each other. So the trafficker sees the situation, recognizes that I have every excuse not to partake. Hundreds, maybe thousands of children have been rescued using this amazing tactic. As I've had these talks over the last several weeks with these amazing, heroic female operators. They want their voices heard. They want you to know what it's been like for them working with me and other operators. You, the supporters, it's time for you to look under the hood. And you can make your own decision about these tactics. But I want to pay homage to these female operators.
Homage.
I want to give them their opportunity to tell their story and bear their witness to the amazing work that they have done working with our teams. So please, over the next several days, listen to their testimonies, listen to the work they've done, and thank God for them for rescuing these children.
Over the next several days, because that way I'm posting for the algorithm, baby. Let's stretch it out.
Got a strategy.
Yep.
And then some of the comments that were on this video, again, they're only trying to stop your work. Don't quit. They're scared of what you're doing and uncovering. Hero, you are innocent in God's eyes no matter what you've done or not done. P words, angry at a hero accusing him of hitting on grown women. Who cares? Honestly, keep saving children.
Wow, what a girl's girl right there.
Right? To all accusers, can you go rescue children instead of attacking heroes who are? Why would you want Tim rescuing your child? No. You don't need to explain yourself or your tactics, Tim. We see you and your team and you do what you're doing amazing. We support you, blah, blah, blah. So, like, ongoing.
If you're choosing Tim to rescue your child, you're probably going to be waiting a while. Probably until you die.
Until Janet figures it out.
Yep. Janet's going to tell. She's
gotta
going to
wait
hit
to
up
hear from
Nephi.
first.
Yeah.
God.
Got to hit up Nephi real quick.
So then here's the next thing that's very interesting to me. Of all places to go and like do an interview or like talk, for me, it wouldn't be just like a random ass dude with a podcast. It would be like Fox News. Fox News would have them on in a heartbeat.
I feel like the Adam Carolla show, I think he's on the Blaze network.
But still, like this is all over the news. They could call up any Fox News correspondent and they'd be like, yeah, when can you get here?
Who knows? Maybe not. Who is... Maybe... I could be wrong. I don't know. That's largely irrelevant.
I don't think he is.
I feel like he's part of some... He's right-winger.
Conservative.
Yeah.
Which is why they went on. But they went on the show together and answered some questions, and everything was very much like a joke. Like, it's ridiculous that you're being accused. All of this is crap. Like, blah,
yeah,
blah, blah.
It's the same thing that they're doing with Russell Brand, where it's just like...
Next slide.
Oh, of course they're going after you.
So this is my favorite photo.
This is the best photo I have ever seen. This is so epic.
So he released this photo to the show. Now, mind you, if you remember the video or the Vice article that I said that he had shared, the author had said that he had taken a photo of himself scantily clad with fake tattoos and sent it to one of the survivors. This apparently is the alleged photo, but he got ahead of the curve, so they'll say, by releasing the photo himself on the show. So, yes, that is the F word in Spanish written
Depending on where you live.
Above his crotch. So I did a very loose transcription / summary of what was said on this because I didn't want this dude to claim us. But when they asked about the photo, Tim said, I'm not embarrassed by it. And they pulled up the photo and his wife was like, oh dear. And so he apologized to her. And then he said, I mean, look at my eyes. If you zoom in on my eyes, I'm completely asleep, laying there for hours. He said the person that's taking the picture is a woman named Katie, and she's the tattoo artist. These are henna tattoos, so they're not permanent. So she took the photo and sent it to the other operators, and he said, hey, keep this archived. So then when I go back in undercover, and then he diverted to a different topic and said, luckily this particular case is dead. This case led to the rescue of many children who were being beat up and R-worded by people in other countries. And he said, does that look like a sexy pic or a sex pic that I would send to someone? And then he said, if you look, that's the F word in Spanish. And Catherine, like, makes the most disgusted noise I've ever heard in my life. And she was like, Timmy. And he was like, oh, sorry. And she was like, he always washes these things off when he comes home. I don't like seeing this side. Like, she acted as though she had never seen this photo before. And it seemed genuine. And so he said, I do feel bad she's seeing this. And then he diverted. A bad guy sees something like that, the tattoos, and boom, I've made 1,000,000 miles there with them. Supposedly just because he has the tattoos. Like, I didn't know tattoos are like...
No shot.
Okay, trafficker alert!
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know.
I don't know what bad guys he's talking about, but these would not impress any sort of bad guy, buddy. You have to have face tattoos, my man. Also, why does he like look like Kevin James if Kevin James really fell off right
But here's
there?
the thing. He says that he's asleep in this photo. His arms are clenched.
Yeah, his arm is in the air.
Uh-huh. And he's making a fist and he's clenching. You can see it because his veins are bulging.
Yeah, this was an intentional.
He was not asleep.
Why would he, asleep for hours? What does that even mean?
Because he said that when the person comes to do the tattoos, it takes a long time. So he strips down and then lays there and falls asleep.
Oh. Yeah, I don't know how you would do that.
But even so, like, okay, so you can justify that the picture was taken to, like...
LOL, somebody said he definitely got a selfie stick. He probably is taking this with a selfie
Oh my
stick.
God. Well, no, because he said what's-her-face took the picture.
Yeah, you're going to believe him now?
I know. But here's the thing, though. Even if he can justify this photo, even if he can say, oh, yeah, it's so that if I do this mission again, that I'll remember what the tattoos are so she can recreate them, or whatever the hell he said, it doesn't mean that he didn't send it to someone.
Yeah, no.
It doesn't mean he didn't send a similar photo in a different position or in a different location or whatever it is. It doesn't mean that he didn't send it to someone inappropriately. Like, even if it was another operator, like if I was working with him, I would want to see this shit. Like, ew, no.
Yeah.
Don't. So, and that's what John Dillon kept saying, bad guys, and these tattoos will tell the bad guy I'm a bad guy. Like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
Why is it just
What?
the tattoos? Like, holy shit. Do you not just go to a trafficker and you're interested in trafficking young children and they're going to, like, believe you? Like, or do you have to be like, look, here,
Look,
Yep.
it says joder.
right here. Yep. You see that? That means
That-
I'm ready to traffic some kids.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell, dude?
You see this little fine line cross I have? Yeah. I'm a
Yeah.
baddie.
So,
What of it?
So this one,
Yeah, if you want to appeal to the bad guys, you get a sick-ass panther tattoo.
right?
Nothing less.
Baloney
That was
agreed
cute.
with that. So this video that I've also linked, hopefully, Tim shares the testimony, he says, of an anonymous female operator who has gone on missions with him. Another video of a different female operator was deleted because they did not cover her face. And so people who figured out who she was, and then they decided to delete it. So now it's gone. I mean, I still have the video. but
Dumbasses.
They deleted it off the page. So they blurred this woman's face, but you can play it.
My name is Natalia, and I have been an undercover operator with OUR for over a year. I worked on various missions with Tim Ballard specifically, ranging from different countries, different continents. And during my time working with Tim, there has been zero inappropriate behavior, any sexual contact, any
She's
inappropriate
laughing.
sexual contact whatsoever before, during, or after a mission. Everything was kept very respectful, very professional. In fact, I think the OUR team went above and beyond to make sure the safety of both the operators and the victims and anybody involved in a mission. During my time in our different missions, we had to deploy different tactics depending on the scenarios, one of which was the couples rouge, which involved us posing as a couple. During those missions specifically, there was, again, absolutely zero sexual contact, touching, anything inappropriate of that nature. Everything was very much professional, and respectful through and through from start to finish.
And I was definitely not given
Yes.
a script.
This is
or told what to
100% real and should exonerate any sort of accusations against him.
Well, and the laughing. The laughing is not always a sign of deceit. It can also be a sign of like just general awkwardness.
Yeah.
But like, hi, yeah, I've never never had to deal with that. Weird. Like it's not giving a confident statement, which could be for a few different reasons. But the interesting thing, because you brought up Russell Brand, which is why I took a picture of this comment. This is exactly what they did to Trump, and they're currently doing it to Russell Brand, Elon Musk, and they did it to Julian Assange and Tate. God always wins in the end. Keep exposing the darkness and fighting evil. Hopefully the rest of us can help fight instead of pointing fingers. And then the other one, this entire string of accusations stinks of a disinformation campaign. Tim got cleared of all these accusations months ago. Also, the letter alleging all this is from an anonymous accuser. Also, the timing of this is suspect, given his intentions of running for Romney's seat. Maybe the Mormon Church wants to remove someone who won't be a puppet like Romney was for the last decades and change. I want to see accusers' names, or I'm calling it BS. Then we always return back to the, I wonder why we
Oh, yeah. Fucking the accusers being anonymous. I won't stand for that. But if the one supposed person who isn't accusing is anonymous, that's A-okay, perfect for me, guys.
And it's total bullshit, because even if the women came out and shared their stories, they wouldn't believe them anyway.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
It literally doesn't matter.
They don't care. It's all bullshit. Should we go to the next one?
Indeed. And then this one is when Tim's wife asked him to give this message, and I found this very interesting. It should be linked.
Here we go. We're getting into stuff that I haven't seen yet. So,
Hey everybody, I got a message for you from my wife, who is one of the most inspired people I know. She asked me to make this message, and I agree with her. Look, we are under attack. The work to rescue children who are being abused in the worst way around the world.
I like how he got ousted from OUR, but he's still...
He is so red also. Like, look at the difference between his red face and his eyes. Like, if that's not a sunburn, I don't know what that is.
World is under attack by all sorts of false...
What?
falsehoods, false accusations, and everything else that comes when you're fighting against evil. And she wants me to remind you something that we've said, and we say it again. I am faithful to my wife and to my God. And that is the truth. You can believe whatever you want, but I'm telling you that that is the truth. So let's get past that for now, and let's try something different. Let's just go out and do good. I don't care what that good is. Serve somebody. Find something good to do with your time. Productive. Help. Serve. Service turns the lights on. Service heals. And so I have dedicated to do that.
And service keeps you away from the 24-hour news cycle, of which I am caught in the eddies of.
My wife is dedicated to do that, and we invite you to do the same. Let's just serve all of God's children, because when you are in the service of your fellow men, you are in fact in the service of your God.
Quote in the Book of Mormon.
Boom.
Also, a message from myself and Catherine. Now, I didn't spot Catherine in this video. Perhaps she is the bobblehead on this shelf. That sounded like a message from Tim. I could be wrong, however.
Yeah. I mean, that doesn't look like a sunburn to me. He is very red. It is interesting because he is almost like consistently red.
And not saying this is the case, but Jordan said that red face is consistent with alcoholism.
It can be consistent, like
It
if you're
can be.
consuming a lot of alcohol. Some people just flush really easily.
Yeah.
If he's stressed, he could be super flushed.
I mean,
It
he
could
should be fucking stressed. This guy is a complete dumbass.
Well, and if it's the swelling, like it, any edema, like it's very interesting. And people have pointed out that sometimes he slurs words a little bit. And it could all be stress. It could be because he's an absolute disaster and falling apart behind the scenes. I mean, it could not be substance related at all, but I wouldn't rule anything out. So here's an interesting comment. All those questioning Tim's motives and actions, are you also questioning your doubts? Is it viable he is being lied about? Look at the
Doubt your
timing.
doubts.
Do you think evil is going to just let the good deeds go uncontested without any opposition at all? How naive can people be? I thought that was funny. Don't be deceived. There's so much manipulation going on. There's particularly strong oppositions going on with human trafficking. Without a doubt, an extreme force for good. Like, I don't believe this. Those who spread these are probably the ones who benefit from sex trafficking. They're just serving notice on themselves. Like, this is... If you want to, like, be embarrassed by the state of America, just go read the comments on Tim's videos.
Yeah.
And now we are back to literally today's date.
Whoa, baby.
We've come so far. So Vice News article dropped today. Women accused Tim Ballard of spiritual manipulation, grooming, and sexual misconduct. This was this morning. Suzette Rasmussen held a press conference at the Utah State Capitol announcing that she was representing many of these survivors. So part of the statement the survivors drafted reads, "We were subjected to sexual harassment, spiritual manipulation, grooming, and sexual misconduct. Though we value our privacy as we work to rebuild our lives, we also feel a responsibility to speak out and state unequivocally that these allegations are true. We acknowledge the risks involved in challenging someone as prominent as Tim Ballard. We will reveal our stories in our own time and on our own terms, but for now, we choose to remain anonymous." So that was the statement that they gave, and Suzette is an attorney from Draper who was representing many of them. She wouldn't confirm how many, but she said the Vice article was very close to the amount that she was representing, and the Vice article named 7. So there you go. And then
Finally,
cherry on top of everything,
last but certainly not least,
from the one and only Dr. John DeLynn, it has been reported to me by credible sources, by my multiple credible sources, names most Mormons would know, that the LDS Church held a disciplinary council for Tim Ballard on Monday night, and that Tim Ballard received notification of his excommunication last night, Wednesday, around 9:45 p.m. This, if true, is going to be earth-shattering for Mormons. And I don't say that lightly, because 90% of the people that you see in his comment section are devoted Mormons. And so when the church puts people in a position of this guy who's a really good guy who's just devoted to saving the children, and then the church excommunicates him,
yeah,
that creates there's going to be a rift. There's going to be a schism. There's going to be something that comes of this, because Tim is perceived as a Mormon hero. He really is.
Yeah. Well, I remember when John was doing this stuff with Lynn Packer a couple, like 2 years ago or whenever it was, there were a lot of people, even in the comments there, and in the Mormon Stories community on Facebook and their Facebook page and everything, that were really critical of John and Lynn for going out or for discussing things about Tim Ballard in a negative light, because a lot of people were bought into this idea that he was doing good. Like, there was no nuance to it. Everything that he was doing was good. So and the comments are proof that there are people who are more dedicated to this guy than they are to the church in a lot of cases, and it's definitely an inflection point for a lot of people. We saw it in 2020 with the prophet encouraging people to get vaccinated. I guess that was more 2021, and there were people who were like, a true prophet would never do that. And now that the church is excommunicating this cult of personality, we'll call it like it is, a lot of people are going to start questioning their faith, like, oh, has the church fallen into apostasy? Does there need to be another restoration or whatever? Because I know that Tim, what he's doing is good and all this stuff. That's how these things play out.
It's going to be a mess.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. And it might not be like earth-shattering for the religion as a whole, I mean, this is probably going to be the biggest for the United States.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like outside of the United States, people probably don't know who the fuck he is.
Probably not. But I mean,
as far as Mormons are concerned.
But if we're talking about like the capital of Mormonism, it's Utah.
Yeah.
And all of this is happening right here. And General Conference, the twice a year giant conference that's broadcasted worldwide, is this weekend. That's Saturday and Sunday. And then the prophet is also not attending General Conference because he's injured. As valid as it is for somebody to not attend a conference and speak because they're injured, it is a little bit destabilizing. Because when McKay and I were growing up, basically every freaking apostle that should have been taken off the bench, we'll say, largely before they were on it, was speaking up on the pulpit, and we were just waiting for them to give up the ghost during the speech.
Those who remember Boyd K. Packer, his last address was when I was in the MTC. We all thought he was going to expire on the stand.
We literally thought he was going to die.
A lot of what he was saying was unintelligible, but he was still there. He gave his whole thing, and he, fucked off.
And then Thomas, we have Tommy Monson, who
Tommy Monson
berated, allegedly, his poor nurses that were taking care of him and refused to, not speak during conference. And so they'd, get him up to the pulpit, and then he'd say a bunch of shit, and then he'd, go back to dropping slurs on the way back to the car when they drove him home.
So as far as, my life was, that was just not something we ever really saw, was the prophet being absent, because I grew up with Gordon Hinckley and Thomas Monson, and they were the same way.
Yep.
So probably as far back, I think Howard W. Hunter might have been the last one who had illnesses enough where he wasn't at General Conference.
Well, and the thing that's interesting to me is because of COVID, General Conference during COVID was they were all just sequestered in a room by themselves.
Yeah, in the auditorium of the COB.
So they're very capable of getting him sat up and situated in a chair and being able to broadcast just him during his time, even if he gave a short speech. Because sometimes the old prophets who are going to die, sometimes they can give literally 2-minute speeches, and that's what you're going to get. That's all they can
muster.
And so the fact that they're not doing anything, they're not doing a pre-recorded, they're not doing they might do a pre-recorded maybe, but they're not going to be able to broadcast to him during, is very fishy to me. Not that I think that he's trying to avoid what's going on with the scandal. I think he's sicker than they're saying he is.
He could be, honestly. I mean, the dude is old.
He's 99.
He's a few standard deviations above the average age that Americans live. So, I mean,
it's crazy. And then Jeffrey Holland to not be there because he's also sick. He's been sick for a while, and then his wife died, and I think that made it worse. But he is a big Mormon powerhouse, and his talks are always big favorites among Mormons. Like myself, his talks are always my favorite. He's an English professor and has a very nice, eloquent way of speaking. But for him to not be there either, I mean, it's destabilizing.
Unprecedented.
It's a bit destabilizing. And then we have all this shit going on with Tim. So there is, and then the Ruby and Jody shit. We have that going on
which
also.
I feel like they kind of got the pass on because of Ruby being more of a YouTuber than a Mormon.
Yeah, well, and
in the public eye, at least.
I don't think Jody and Ruby are going to be let off the hook. I don't think Jody will, especially since John and is name dropping apostles and shit and leaders left and right. I think something will happen to Jody. I'm not sure about Ruby, but I think something will happen for Jody. I don't think they would necessarily have to have been as public about it with Ruby. I think that if they were to have to do it, it would be because Jody had hands in messes with big church leaders. And similar to what I think is going on with Tim here, you question the leaders, you go up against the church, you say sketchy shit. Doesn't matter how much of a committed person you are, you'll get the axe. They don't give a shit about you. Which is the unfortunate thing that Tim's going to learn here that I told McKay the other day is it doesn't matter how devoted of a member you are. The church does not care about you. They do not care. You are a number on their stupid list, and they do not care. So if you go out and do some stupid shit, they're going to be like, yeah, you're X'd. Get lost. We don't care.
Yep.
And that's going to devastate Tim because this is his whole freaking life is Mormonism. And the church couldn't give a singular less of a crap about who he is. And it's just a total representation of how crappy the church is because it's never about the people.
Yep. The people who are in the high positions that they are in, they don't maintain those positions if they don't do everything they can to protect the good name of the church. Mm-hmm. If you go against that, that creed, that objective that all of these leaders are charged with, then you're gone. They cut you loose. So when these people are making the decisions, they have that in the core of their heart that whatever they've got is on the line if they don't choose to do that.
Yep. And so if that's the case, like for those of you that aren't familiar, a disciplinary council is just a step before excommunication. And so basically you get the court of your peers where it's kind of like being tried. Like you have charges against you and they tell you what they are and they tell you their concerns and they tell you what's at stake and what the disciplinary action might be. And then usually most of the time they'll allow the person to give a statement, and they might allow other people to give statements. They've allowed like family members and people to give statements on behalf of the person before.
Yeah.
But it usually doesn't matter. Usually the church goes into those meetings with a decision already made. They're just trying to look better by thinking that you're involved in the process when you're not. And so
it at least gives the illusion of due process, even if it's
totally rigged.
Even if they're already decided.
You don't have to attend your disciplinary council. It will be held without you if you do not go.
Yep.
So he could have refused to have gone and they still would have done it anyway, or he could have gone and pleaded. And since this is so high up with church leaders, I doubt that they gave him any consideration whatsoever. I'm sure they had their decision in mind and they just needed to check off the boxes to say that they did it, and they don't give a shit.
Well, usually it's at the behest of the local leaders, the stake presidency and the stake council, the stake high council. But historically, there have been favors called in by higher ups to stake presidents to, hey, this person is a problem. We need to do something about it. And then whatever comes of that,
because the 12 is gonna supersede whatever the hell you're,
because then if
something
if something bad goes on, they can say we didn't excommunicate him, his stake president did.
Boom. It's
just layers on layers of we're just a couple moves ahead in case we have to make those moves.
Yeah. And I think it's much more obvious with Tim because he's coming out specifically recently and making claims about the church. Like, I don't even know if my church said this. Like, my church doesn't excommunicate people. Like, that is a red flag more so, I feel like, for the church, because they look at that and going, you're questioning leadership. And Jody and Ruby recently haven't done or said anything specifically about the church particularly. Like, they haven't come out and said, like, we agree with this thing about Mormonism versus not. Like, Mormonism will live in the vague. Like, you can go screw off and do all this crazy shit and not mention Mormonism, and people will know what you're talking about. But if you don't explicitly mention it, it's not as big of a deal. Tim is dredging up a storm and dragging the church into it very explicitly. You know what I mean? So there is potentially a difference in how those things are handled. What are you doing?
Somebody said that Mormon Stories had to remove some of the Jody and Ruby stuff that they've done recently.
Really? Hours? No, these are all...
Maybe. I think they're just in live. Yeah, they're still up. They're in the live tab.
This is my beef with YouTube.
I hate that it does that.
It drives me bonkers because if you do a live video, YouTube categorizes it in a different section of your profile. So it won't come up under your regular video section. So you have to go to the live section to see those videos. It drives me bonkers.
Yeah, so they're still there. I was like, what the hell? I was going to message John after this and say, what's up with that? Yeah, they're just in the live tab. Or if you search for them directly, you'll be able to find them like that.
It's a good question about his wife. It happens fairly often that if one is excommunicated, the other is also.
Margie didn't get excommunicated with John, did she? I think it was after.
Did she?
I don't think
She
they were
went with
excommunicated together. I
Not
think
together.
she was. I think she left. I can't remember. Don't come for me, John. I'm sorry. But I'm pretty sure John, he got excommunicated alone.
Oh, John got a cease and desist from Steed's ex-wife's attorney.
Oh, of course he did. Cease and desist means nothing.
I mean, it can mean nothing
can mean-
if you have the funds to defend it.
Yeah. Well, nothing really. Oh, Margie resigned the next day. I thought so.
I was gonna say, I can't remember. There's somebody else I was
It
thinking
can mean, even filing a lawsuit doesn't mean anything necessarily.
Anybody can file a lawsuit.
Anybody can file a lawsuit.
I can only think, like, again, I'm not a lawyer, but my thoughts would be like defamation or, like libel.
Yeah, because Adam's interview is still there. Cease and desist. You can just
You can,
find
and
form letters and shit like that. But
the only way to
the
go against
grounds,
that is truth.
Yeah.
So if he's
the
speaking
grounds
truth, it doesn't matter.
on where they would be filing that suit. There's just nothing really there.
Yeah, but I don't think
It would be hard to prove.
I don't think Ruby and Jody are off the hook. We haven't even seen, I feel like, the beginnings of this, of what's going to come out in Discovery. Of like, there is so much more to the Ruby and Jody case that hasn't even come out yet, and I think they have, like, they're biding time. Like, they have some time to think about what they want to do with the two of them, and they could have excommunicated them quietly and not have said anything about it. They don't always have to make a public statement with an excommunication. Because if they excommunicate them quietly and then people confront them and they're like, we excommunicated them back in July, and then it's not a story anymore.
It'll have to come out.
So rest assured, the church knows exactly what they're doing, and there's a method to the madness. So there's a good chance that Jody and Ruby might already have been freaking excommunicated, and they're just not making a public statement about it. There would be no way for anybody to know that unless somebody in the ward or a church leader or somebody stepped out with that information, which is generally confidential.
The kids are not excommunicated as well at the same time. Even if the parents are. If they're baptized, then it doesn't matter.
So they're not sealed anymore. An excommunication doesn't
Not necessarily.
invalidate a sealing.
Not necessarily, no.
Yeah. It would be. I imagine it would be really hard for his wife and for his kids to have your parent be excommunicated from the religion that, his son is serving or just served a mission for.
Yeah.
Can feel kind of like a sense of betrayal.
Yeah, for sure.
Baloney's making some noises.
Baloney's groaning. Anyway, is there any last things that we can hit on? I am tired and hungry. I'm very hungry.
I'm tired and hungry.
I have not had dinner yet.
So make sure that you like this video. Make sure that you're subscribed. Make sure
Baloney.
if you'd like to support us, become a member, join our Patreon. It makes it so we can continue to make these videos. I'm trying to think. I can't think of anything else. My brain's
Me either.
buffering.
Mush.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about the Catholic Church and excommunication, so sorry.
We need
You'll have to go to Google for that one. Yeah, Baloney loves you. We love you. If you have any, you can join our Discord. We can continue the discussion there if you choose
Join
to
our
do
Discord.
so.
Shout out to our mods.
Thanks to everybody for staying up late with us. We love you. And I guess we will talk to y'all later.
Thanks for being here, y'all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.